Dust floated in the stale air of my dilapidated dungeon, where nothing stood except a crude lord's mansion and a barren stone hall. Bare earthen walls stretched out 500 meters long and wide around me, marking the humble limits of my newly established territory. Cracks ran along the timber arches of the simple hall, highlighting just how primitive my starting domain truly was. A heavy sigh escaped my chest as I took in the quiet emptiness of the chamber. My territory is finally about to open for business, I announced to the silent stone walls. Memories of my past life flashed before my eyes, back when I was merely a fresh graduate grinding away as a corporate wage slave. Without warning, transmigration had ripped me from my mundane reality and dropped me straight into the world of Dungeon Lord. Years of relentless struggle and surviving on raw ambition finally led me to this single moment. Standing here as a true lord with my own dungeon felt like the ultimate culmination of all that hardship. Two distinct paths ruled this world, the surface-dwelling adventurers and the dungeon-creating lords. Adventurers were undying surface dwellers, driven by an insatiable hunger to challenge every secret realm in existence. Their curiosity knew no bounds, forever seeking death-defying thrills inside ancient, underground corridors. Treasure, renown, or pure adrenaline, whatever their motivation, those surface dwellers would gladly throw themselves into danger. Lords held the power of creation, molding raw secret realms out of pure thought and willpower. By channeling mental power, a lord builds environments designed to draw adventurers into their traps. When those foolish adventurers perished within my secret realms, their demise yielded soul crystals, the absolute lifeblood required for constructing a dungeon. Soul crystals were the core resources of everything, the indispensable energy source that dictated whether a dungeon flourished or crumbled into dust. A strange harmony existed between us, a deadly game of cat and mouse where lords needed adventurers to die, while adventurers craved the dangerous thrills we engineered. Mastering Dungeon Lord was all about pitting strategy against greedy minds, combining management, sandbox freedom, and brutal roguelike unpredictability. Lingering regrets over my former world vanished completely. I fully embraced my new existence within this endless labyrinth of power. Standing in my quiet hall, I swore a solemn oath to ascend as the greatest dungeon lord this entire world had ever seen. Confidence coursed through my veins because I already possessed an intimate understanding of this world's underlying mechanics and hidden rules. Deep within my subconscious, my awakened sea of inspiration thrummed with boundless energy, waiting to unleash its vast potential. Unbelievably, my sea of inspiration had merged with every iconic video game, anime, and blockbuster film from my previous life. From that boundless mental reservoir, I could extract infinitely rich and unique material packs that no local lord could ever dream of obtaining. Without a doubt, this miraculous mental library gave me the single most overpowered lord talent in existence. Those surface adventurers shared the exact same psychological drive as hardcore gamers from my original world, forever seeking novelty and challenge. As long as a secret realm offered pure entertainment, those thrill-seekers would flock to it endlessly, utterly unbothered by modest material payouts. Comparing secret realm creation to game design exposed how utterly atrocious and uninspired this world's current standard really was. A staggering 99% of existing secret realms were nothing more than glorified mazes with different cosmetic skins slapped on top. Creating a truly captivating secret realm was no simple feat in this world, requiring tremendous mental focus and rare resources. First, a creator had to awaken their sea of inspiration to condense raw thought into concrete inspiration crystals. These inspiration crystals served as complete material packs, containing monsters, environments, props, and everything needed to construct a realm. Ordinary lords were severely limited, receiving only scarce, monotonous materials that made creating dynamic content nearly impossible. Even the rare gifted lords who unlocked unique materials struggled with strict quantity caps, preventing them from building sprawling game worlds, however, stood on an entirely different level from anyone else in this realm. The sheer variety of materials stored in my mind was 10,000 times richer than what ordinary lords could ever hope to command. Faithfully recreating legendary titles from my past life was well within my power, bringing iconic gaming experiences to life. Fusing elements across genres would allow me to innovate wildly, crafting crazier and more localized content than anything this world had imagined. Complete confidence filled me as I prepared to introduce the most captivating, addicting secret realms this world had ever witnessed. This revolutionary approach would act as a dimensional strike, completely crushing the outdated designs of rival lords. Reaching out toward the center of the hall, I activated the dungeon core to bring up my management system. Translucent control panel materialized instantly before me, offering two primary choices: information management and territory management. Tapping the interface, I tapped information management to inspect my current status and available stats. My personal status window expanded, listing my name clearly as Lord Chi-Ji, currently holding a Tier 1 rank. Checking my mental power stat, I saw it sitting at a meager 5 out of 1,000 points. My soul crystal balance stood at 0, reflecting my complete lack of harvested resources. Under my inspiration crystal section, a single unlocked icon glowed with the title Left 4 Dead. The screen confirmed my current secret realm was listed as none, with my territory capacity sitting at 0 out of 100. I remembered exhausting almost 20 years of accumulated mental power just to pull this off. It was all worth it to draw that single apocalyptic Left 4 Dead crystal straight from my sea of inspiration. Nostalgia washed over me as I recalled how college students in my past life pulled all-nighters in dorms and gaming cafes just to play this legendary title. With a surge of anticipation, I activated the inspiration crystal in front of me. The Monster Materials tab unfolded before me, revealing normal zombie, boomer, hunter, charger, tank zombie, and witch zombie. Scene materials materialized into view, offering urban district, forest valley, park, station, subway, airport, and port material packs. Prop materials expanded across the interface, detailing cold weapon material packs and firearm material packs ready for deployment. Finally, the character materials category unlocked, completing the full array of creative assets. I confirmed that this single inspiration crystal encompassed every piece of content from both Left 4 Dead 1 and Left. I realized I had the power to replicate the entire classic game line for line in a flawless 1:1 recreation. An unprecedented zombie shooting experience like this would create immense attraction and ignite the exploratory desires of every adventurer. Every adventurer stepping into this world would undoubtedly marvel at its genius, utterly captivated by its unprecedented concept. Yet, I had no intention of making a direct 1:1 copy of the original without my own signature touch. Creating secret realms required a constant expenditure of mental power, whether deploying hordes, sculpting cities, or forging special items. A quick review of the system menu showed that normal zombies required a glorious 0 points of mental power to deploy. Special infected like hunters and boomers carried a modest price tag of 3 mental power each. Brutal chargers demanded 5 points of mental power from my reservoir. Devastating tank zombies and terrifying witch zombies cost a steep 20 mental power each. With only 5 precious points of mental power remaining, summoning high-tier special zombies immediately was out of the question. That was hardly a setback. I simply needed to establish a solid basic framework first and expand later. I channeled my last 5 points of mental power into manifesting an urban district map spanning roughly 100 square kilometers. Since normal zombies cost nothing, I unleashed hundreds of thousands of them, flooding every alleyway, street, and building. I set up their AI routines so some wandered along designated patrol routes while others spawned randomly at set intervals. To sharpen the tension, I coded an infection threat rule. Even a tiny bite or scratch would inflict continuous damage. To conserve my limited resources during this initial phase, I locked the game into a strict single-player survival mode. Entering adventurers would have their supernatural physique stripped down to ordinary human levels, making survival a living nightmare. Without teammate rescues in realism mode, those cocky adventurers wouldn't know what hit them. Guaranteed soul crystal harvests for my dungeon. This was only the beginning. The Left 4 Dead material library held infinite potential for story campaigns, team battles, and battle royale modes. I knew that the true art of being a dungeon lord lay in sustainable harvesting, fishing continuously without draining the pond. If a game proved too simple, cunning adventurers would grow bored and abandon the realm entirely. Setting overly lavish clearance rewards to retain players was a trap that had driven countless naive lords into bankruptcy. Making a game maliciously impossible offered no hope of clearing, ruining a dungeon's reputation after just one wave. My design hit the sweet spot, sinister difficulty masked behind addictive mechanics that would keep players coming back for more. After 3 long days of tireless crafting and fine-tuning every single mechanic, my masterpiece was finally complete. Since this remade experience had evolved far beyond the original, I officially renamed my secret realm Doomsday Tide. I rubbed my hands together with a sly smirk, full of wicked anticipation for what was about to unfold. Everything is ready. It's time to bring a little shock of the zombie mad tide to those innocent adventurers. I monitored Wang Chui, an adventurer hailing from Blackstone Town who grew up hearing old tales of a strange world-ending catastrophe. Through system records, I saw his memories of the apocalyptic event where stars froze, water turned toxic, and ancient cities crumbled in an instant. Surviving humanity had no choice but to rely on developing dungeons to harvest vital supplies and sustain life. That harsh reality turned adventurers into the most sought-after profession, drawing countless thrill-seekers to explore unknown secret realms. Scanning the local dungeon listings, Wang Chui discovered a brand new territory named Miracle City. A new secret realm listed under Miracle City caught his eye, titled Doomsday Tide. Out of the 500 dungeons operating in Blackstone Town, most went bankrupt or were destroyed within 3 months. Without prior fame, new dungeons rarely attracted visitors or generated enough resources to build complex content. Wang Chui didn't care about fame or fortune. He loved pure exploration and reviewing fresh secret realms. Doomsday Tide sounded remarkably unique compared to the usual repetitive maze names. Curiosity piqued, Wan Chui decided to give this new secret realm an immediate try. He stepped onto the teleportation platform and activated his crystal, vanishing into a flash of light. Wan Chui materialized in Miracle City, finding only a crude, empty camp with zero supporting facilities. In the center stood a simple secret realm hall containing a single secret realm crystal. Stepping inside, Wan Chui spotted 2 other adventurers already waiting near the crystal. I watched through the hall crystal as Wan Chui approached the 2 waiting adventurers and struck up a casual conversation. Following surface etiquette, Wan Chui introduced himself using his adventurer alias, Blackstone Hammer King. A petite, cute girl with a high ponytail and bright apricot eyes spoke up next, introducing herself as Cat Meng Meng. Beside her, a scruffy, bearded middle-aged man laughed heartily, introducing his alias as Lonely Swordsman, though he preferred being called Old Dao. None of them recognized each other, which was hardly surprising given the vast population of nearly 100,000 adventurers in Blackstone Town. Stepping out from the inner chamber, I greeted my very first batch of visitors with a warm and welcoming smile. As a newly established lord without a single subject to my name, putting on aristocratic airs was a luxury I could ill afford. Cat Meng Meng immediately stepped forward, asking if I could give them some early intel and hints as their reward for being my first supporters. I explained that Doomsday Tide required wisdom and courage to reach a safe house, and killing more monsters along the way would yield far higher final evaluations and rewards. Cat Meng Meng blinked in mild disappointment, asking if that brief overview was truly all the information I had to share. I smiled mysteriously, telling them they had to experience the secret realm for themselves, assuring them it would definitely not disappoint. All 3 adventurers grumbled inwardly, suspecting this was just another uninspired, reskin maze created by an amateur lord. Lonely Swordsman stroked his scruffy beard and asked the other 2 who wanted to step up and test the new realm first. Cat Meng Meng volunteered immediately, explaining she had appointments with other dungeons and couldn't afford to waste too much time here. Placing her palm onto the crystal surface, Cat Meng Meng triggered the portal mechanism with a bright hum of energy. Cat Meng Meng vanished from the hall floor, entering the secret realm instance. As the dungeon creator, I watched the secret realm crystal light up, projecting every single action she took inside the realm. Blackstone Hammer King and Lonely Swordsman leaned in close around the crystal, eager to spectate her run. Inside the secret realm, Cat Meng Meng opened her eyes and stood frozen in pure astonishment. Before her stretched an alien urban landscape, a dense jungle made of concrete and reinforced steel. She found herself trapped on an enclosed rooftop, surrounded by high steel bars, wire mesh, and a single heavy exit door. Resting on the wooden workbench in front of her lay a fire axe, a black pistol, and a red medical kit. Cat Meng Meng couldn't help but admire the incredible detail, realizing this secret realm possessed genuine depth. Watching through the crystal screen, Blackstone Hammer King and Lonely Swordsman marveled at the completely novel environment. Cat Meng Meng scooped up the P226 pistol, fire axe, and medical kit from the workbench. The moment her fingers wrapped around the pistol, a system notification identified it as a P226 pistol holding a 15-round magazine. Noticing there was no infinite ammunition, she realized she had only one single magazine to defend herself. With the axe slung over her shoulder and P226 ready, she pushed open the heavy rooftop door and stepped into the stairwell corridor. Walking down the messy hallway, she spotted horrific bloodstains splattered across the walls and a lone human silhouette standing further ahead. Wondering if the figure was a friendly guide character, she hesitated cautiously before taking another step. Stepping closer, Cat Meng Meng noticed the figure squatting on the dirty corridor floor, eating something raw and bloody with sickening hunger. A bad premonition washed over her, prompting Cat Meng Meng to stop in her tracks and call out of sheer caution. The figure snapped its head around violently, revealing a decayed, vein-streaked face with bulging eyes and blood dripping from its chewing mouth. Letting out a roar like a rabid beast, the monster lunged toward Cat Meng Meng with terrifying. Watching from the hall, I smiled at the effective jump scare, recognizing my deliberate homage to Resident Evil's iconic look-back moment. Terrified out of her mind by the sudden gore, Cat Meng Meng shrieked as the maniacal zombie closed the distance in a split second. Outside in the secret realm hall, Blackstone Hammer King and Lonely Swordsman jumped back in utter surprise at the sudden intensity. The zombie sprinted with the agility of a healthy human, completely shattering the traditional slow and dead stereotype. Panicking, Cat Meng Meng squeezed the trigger 3 times, landing 3 direct hits to the monster's chest and heart. Completely ignoring the fatal chest wounds, the crazy creature crashed into Cat Meng Meng and tackled her to the floor. Trapped under the monster's brutal bite, Cat Meng Meng's health reached 0, resulting in her instant death. A system prompt flashed before my eyes, confirming Cat Meng Meng's demise and awarding my Dungeon 1 soul crystal. Satisfaction filled my chest as I celebrated my official opening day and first successful harvest. Ejected from the crystal, Cat Meng Meng reappeared in the hall gasping for air, her face pale with lingering terror. Cat Meng Meng cried out in frustration, demanding to know why direct shots to the heart failed to kill the monster. Lonely Swordsman stroked his beard, noting the creature resembled a crazed living corpse, and advised targeting the head next time. Eager to test his own skills, Black Stone Hammer King stepped up to the crystal pedestal for his turn. Despite her plan to leave early, Cat Meng Meng stayed behind, desperate to see if the insane creature could actually be killed. Selecting his character avatar, Black Stone Hammer King materialized on the enclosed rooftop under the overcast sky. Without hesitation, Black Stone Hammer King swept up the P226 pistol, fire axe, and medical pack from the workbench. I heard Black Stone Hammer King exclaim in awe at the sheer detail of the rooftop scene, declaring it worth playing for the visuals alone. Pistol in hand, Black Stone Hammer King pushed open the heavy door and stepped cautiously into the dark stairwell corridor. Down the hallway, he spotted the exact same crouching zombie with its back turned, eating raw flesh. Learning from Cat Ming Ming's death, Black Stone Hammer King lined up the rear sight of his pistol directly with the back of the zombie's head and pulled the trigger. A loud gunshot echoed through the hall as the bullet pierced the zombie's head, killing it instantly. Black Stone Hammer King laughed out loud, boasting that the terrifying living corpse was actually weak once you knew its weakness. Inspecting the P226 in his hands, he marveled at how it functioned like a crossbow, only 100 times more refined and far more convenient. Advancing further down the corridor, he ran into 2 more zombies wandering toward him. Black Stone Hammer King opened fire, discharging 6 rapid shots in a frenzy of noise and smoke. Despite missing 4 shots, 2 bullets struck home with headshots, dropping both living corpses to the ground. He shouted in pure exhilaration, boasting that even his grandmother with a walking cane could clear these weak creatures with a gun. Before his smugness could last, 5 zombies suddenly burst out from around the corner, rushing him all at once. In a blind panic, he fired wildly into the mob, killing 3 zombies before his slide locked back on an empty magazine. Seeing his gun click empty, Black Stone Hammer King froze in sheer panic as the remaining 2 zombies lunged. Outside in the hall, Lonely Swordsman cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted through the crystal, urging him to use the axe. Remembering the weapon on his back, Black Stone Hammer King tossed aside the empty pistol and unslung his fire axe. He swung the fire axe with all his strength, cleaving deep into a zombie's skull as foul black blood sprayed everywhere. Before he could yank the wedged axe free from the skull, the last zombie tackled him to the floor. Overwhelmed by the feral creature, Black Stone Hammer King succumbed to the attack, perishing inside the secret realm. My system interface flashed with a fresh alert, confirming Black Stone Hammer King's death and granting my dungeon 1 soul crystal along with 1 point of mental power. Gaining a point of mental power made my heart leap with joy, knowing it was infinitely more valuable than any soul crystal. Monitoring the system menu, I evaluated mental power and soul crystals as the 2 essential resources governing my entire territory. Soul crystals allowed me to construct dungeon facilities, upgrade territory functions, and expand overall capacity. Every single time an adventurer met their demise within my secret realm, a soul crystal dropped into my reserves. Mental power served a different purpose, enabling lords to build secret realms and elevate their own overall rank. Extraction of mental power occurred only when adventurers experienced intense positive emotional surges inside the realm. Uninspired secret realm might yield continuous soul crystals from deaths, but it could never generate mental power. Only by crafting an experience that truly thrilled, excited, and exhilarated players could I absorb precious mental power. Out in the hall, Black Stone Hammer King grumbled in frustration, complaining about the sheer quantity of living corpses in the corridor. Black Stone Hammer King pointed out that ammo was extremely scarce, and since zombies responded to noise, gunfire had to be used sparingly. Lonely Swordsman stepped forward, offering to take his turn with the calm composure of a veteran adventurer. Materializing inside the stairwell corridor, Lonely Swordsman held back his P226 pistol to maintain absolute stealth. He crept up behind the turnaround zombie and cleaved it to death with a silent, powerful axe stroke. With the corridor clear, Lonely Swordsman began exploring the adjacent rooms one by one. Inside the dark rooms, he executed swift sneak attacks to eliminate 2 wandering zombies without making a sound. His methodical stealth approach worked flawlessly, keeping the surrounding horde completely unaware of his presence. Rifling through the drawers, Lonely Swordsman discovered 2 spare pistol magazines filled with ammunition. A moment later, he uncovered a second P226 pistol, instantly doubling his firepower. Watching through the crystal screen, Black Stone Hammer King and Cat Meng Meng cheered in excitement at his discovery. Cat Meng Meng praised Uncle Dao, relieved to see that ammunition could indeed be replenished within the secret realm. Black Stone Hammer King nodded in agreement, declaring Uncle Dao's cautious exploration to be the correct strategic playstyle. Suddenly, a zombie lurking deep in the room's shadows lunged out in a surprise ambush against Lonely Swordsman. Watching through the crystal screen, Blackstone Hammer King and Cat Meng Meng cried out in alarm to warn Uncle Dao. Startled by the sudden attack, Lonely Swordsman reacted instinctively, swinging his fire axe to fend off the creature. After a tense melee struggle, Lonely Swordsman managed to hack the ambushed zombie to death with his fire axe. Catching his breath, Lonely Swordsman looked down and noticed several nasty scratch wounds across his arms and tunic. He winced as he realized the loud scuffle had drawn the attention of other living corpses in the corridor. Alerted by the noise, multiple wandering zombies in the hallway turned together and swarmed toward the apartment doorway. Acting fast, Lonely Swordsman flipped a wooden table onto its side to construct temporary cover near the room entrance. Dual-wielding his two P226 pistols, Lonely Swordsman opened fire, emptying 2 full magazines into the doorway. A hail of bullets dropped all 8 swarming zombies, stacking their dead bodies across the threshold. Cat Meng Meng gasped in awe through the crystal display, thoroughly impressed by Uncle Dao taking down so many monsters at once. Blackstone Hammer King chimed in with a tactical warning, reminding Uncle Dao that more living corpses still roamed outside. Inspect his gear, Lonely Swordsman realized he had only one final magazine left in his inventory. Suddenly, Lonely Swordsman stumbled as a strange weakness washed over his body, draining his physical strength rapidly. Lifting his tunic sleeve, he recoiled as he saw his scratch wounds turning pitch black and festering with dark veins. Cat Meng Meng widened her eyes in horror, realizing that the living corpses possessed a deadly infection effect. Lonely Swordsman spoke in a heavy voice, estimating he could hold out for a quarter of an hour at most before collapsing. Blackstone Hammer King shouted through the crystal, reminding Uncle Dao to treat his wounds with the starting medical kit. I watched through the projection as Lonely Swordsman decided to evacuate the room first, knowing living corpses could breach the doorway at any second. Cat Meng Meng pointed out a broken window on the 3rd floor through the crystal view, suggesting an immediate escape route. Looking through the broken window frame, Lonely Swordsman spotted rusty drainage pipes running down into a quiet, narrow alleyway below. Swinging his legs over the sill, Lonely Swordsman gripped the metal pipe and slid down the exterior brick wall. A minute later, his boots hit the pavement in the quiet, narrow alleyway between concrete buildings. Cautiously advancing toward the street opening to locate a safe shelter, Lonely Swordsman stepped out from between the buildings. The moment he stepped into the open, Lonely Swordsman froze in complete, horrifying shock at the sight before him. The main avenue was choked with thousands of terrifying living corpses, packed densely as far as his eyes could see. Their tattered clothes revealed diverse civilian roles, sportswear, business suits, police uniforms, hazmat suits, and firefighter gear wandering aimlessly. Mangled, bloody faces stared blindly across the ruined thoroughfare, painting a nightmare of utter destruction. A few nearby zombies caught his movement and unleashed blood-curdling howls that echoed down the street. In an instant, the entire massive horde turned as one, their dead eyes locking onto Lonely Swordsman simultaneously. Absolute despair gripped Lonely Swordsman as he realized there was no escape from the overwhelming tide of death. Hundreds of wild zombies stampeded into the narrow alleyway, crushing over each other in a terrifying frenzy. Back in the hall, the sheer scale of the horror sent a shivering chill down the spectators' spines. Trapped against the dead-end wall in the alley, Lonely Swordsman found himself with zero room to retreat. Watching the unstoppable wave of corpses, the 3 adventurers finally understood the true, terrifying meaning behind the name Doomsday Tide. Lonely Swordsman emptied his final pistol magazine directly into the advancing wave of flesh. He hurled his empty gun aside and raised his fire axe, cleaving 2 charging zombies with desperate strength. The colossal tide of living corpses crushed over him, tearing his avatar to pieces under a sea of claws and teeth. My system window flashed with an update, confirming Lonely Swordsman's death and granting my dungeon 1 point of mental power along with 1 soul crystal. Lonely Swordsman ejected from the portal crystal and reappeared on the hall floor, leaving all 3 adventurers staring at each other in complete dismay. The 3 adventurers began voicing their utter disbelief over the sheer volume of living corpses and the complete collapse of the city. Curiosity sparked among them as they eagerly speculated on the hidden story and tragic catastrophe that transformed the citizens into monsters. They questioned how a small, newly opened dungeon could possibly afford the astronomical resource cost required to spawn so many monsters. All 3 expressed open praise for the Secret Realm's production quality, unprecedented art style, and astonishing richness of monster elements. Cat Meng Meng put her hands on her hips and confronted me directly, asking how anyone could clear a realm stuffed with so many monsters. I smiled calmly and explained that a clear route definitely existed, provided they explored thoroughly, gathered better weapons, and found optimal escape paths. Cat Meng Meng pressed further, inquiring about what disaster had turned the local citizens into living corpses. Blackstone Hammer King stepped in to defend me, telling Cat Meng Meng that exploring the world's secrets for themselves made the adventure truly enjoyable. Cat Meng Meng conceded the point with a nod, agreeing that discovering hidden lore on their own was the essence of fun. Suddenly, Lonely Swordsman gasped in surprise as a system notification alerted him that he had received secret realm loot. The other two adventurers crowded around in high curiosity, eager to see what material drop he had obtained. System rules dictated that material outputs depended heavily on a secret realm's completion rate and thoroughness of exploration. The adventurers expressed genuine shock at receiving loot, considering they had barely explored a tiny fraction of Doomsday Tide. I found the drop perfectly natural, knowing that the immense richness of my secret realm inherently boosted material drop probabilities. Lonely Swordsman's reward materialized as a crate of iced, carbonated fat happy water soda cans. A quick system check confirmed that generating basic real-world supplies like soda cost 0 mental power. Surface world production was notoriously abysmal, making every basic commodity and luxury item incredibly scarce. I felt absolute confidence that even a simple reward like ice soda would bring immense joy and satisfaction to these resource-starved surface adventurers. Popping open the crate, Lonely Swordsman passed cold aluminum cans to Blackstone Hammer King and Cat Meng Meng. All three adventurers pulled back the tabs simultaneously and took massive, eager gulps of the ice-cold carbonated drink. Tingling wave of crisp carbonation surged straight from their spines to the very tops of their heads. Taking a sip myself, I discovered the dungeon-replicated soda tasted even richer and crispier than the brand from my previous life. The adventurers exchanged shocked glances, utterly blown away by the delicious, unprecedented flavor. Cat Meng Meng held her can with both hands, excitedly asking me if this incredible drink was a specialty exclusive to this secret realm. I replied that it was called cola, assuring her that Doomsday Tide contained materials and secrets far beyond their wild imaginations. Cat Meng Meng praised me with a beaming smile, declaring she never expected me to be such a generous lord. The adventurers' eyes lit up as they realized this dungeon offered genuine material returns alongside thrill. I reflected on how heavily polluted the surface world was, making clean food and water nearly impossible to obtain. Adventurers were the primary producers of humanity, needing daily supplies to survive birth, sickness, and old age. A single case of cola in Blackstone Town's market could easily trade for a full month's worth of clean drinking water. Convinced of the realm's immense value, the three adventurers resolved to spend all their daily mental power right here. I analyzed their stats, knowing that challenging secret realms consumed an adventurer's mental power based on their tier. Nearly all 100,000 adventurers residing in Blackstone Town belonged to Tier 1, facing harsh leveling requirements. Blackstone Hammer King and Cat Meng Meng were complete newbies, possessing a daily limit of 5 mental power that allowed at most 5 challenges each. Lonely Swordsman stood near Tier 2 as a quasi-first-class adventurer, holding 8 points of mental power for 8 daily attempts. All three made up their minds, resolving to burn every single point of their daily mental power challenging Doomsday Tide. My system window flashed with an update as Lonely Swordsman perished on his next run, awarding 1 mental power and 1 soul crystal. Another notification popped up as Lonely Swordsman died once more, granting my dungeon another 1 mental power and 1 soul crystal. Blackstone Hammer King met a gruesome end on his turn, yielding 1 point of mental power and 1 soul crystal. Cat Meng Meng suffered a swift defeat on her attempt, dropping 1 mental power and 1 soul crystal into my reserves. Taking turns in rotation, the trio slowly searched through the initial rooftop building, locating most supply storage spots. Pushing past the lower levels, they eventually discovered an underground parking garage beneath the complex. Using the relatively safe underground garage, they bypassed the dense zombie-choked streets to explore nearby districts. Extreme game difficulty kept tension high, with zombies roaming every corner and spawning unpredictably. A single misstep during their sweep inevitably triggered a swarm, dragging them down to a gruesome death. Despite the brutal deaths, the three adventurers were having an absolute blast, thoroughly addicted to the intense thrill. Their efforts yielded continuous supply drops, harvesting precious real-world commodities like beer, cola, candy, and chocolate. In their final attempt of the day, they uncovered a MAC-10 silenced submachine gun inside a supply crate. Unleashing the MAC-10, they experienced pure exhilaration as a hail of bullets mowed down zombie swarms, sending flesh and blood flying. Blackstone Hammer King shouted in complete refreshment, declaring that no gamer could ever resist the sheer satisfaction of this gun. Cat Meng Meng stamped her foot in playful frustration, complaining that her mental power was completely depleted despite wanting to keep playing. Cat Meng Meng urged me to add more secret realm crystals soon, promising to bring all her good buddies to support my dungeon. I smiled subtly, realizing with satisfaction that tomorrow's business was already fully secured. I assured her that although my dungeon had just started, the number of secret realm crystals and supporting facilities would soon be perfected. The three adventurers cheered happily, reassured by my promise, and bade farewell until tomorrow. As the adventurers departed satisfied, Miracle City officially welcomed its very first closing. A standard day in this world spanned 24 hours, with 12 hours dedicated to receiving adventurers and 12 hours operating under the Chaos Tide. During the first 12 hours, chaos energy flooded the underground world, fueling the secret realm crystals while forcing dark species into shelter. When the chaos tide receded during the remaining 12 hours, secret realm crystals lost energy while dark creatures roamed actively. Fortunately, my newly born dungeon generated a protective energy barrier, a 30-day newbie shield keeping all dark creatures at bay. Opening the territory meant business hours for adventurers, while closing allowed me to manage, build, and expand my domain in peace. Tallying my first day's earnings across 18 adventurer runs, I counted a total harvest of 16 points of mental power and 18 soul crystals. Tapping the Lord Core, I accessed territory management to review population, construction, and management options. Checking population revealed 0 army units or residents in Miracle City, leading me to skip it for now. Selecting construction, 2 subcategories appeared on screen: basic construction and special construction. Basic construction offered built-in facilities ready to build using specified amounts of soul crystals. Special construction required higher resource costs and rare blueprints, obtainable by defeating dark species or trading at the Lord Market. Clicking basic construction, I unlocked the full-price list of essential dungeon facilities. The menu listed Secret Realm Crystal for 5 soul crystals, Arrow Tower for 50, Warehouse for 50, and Mercenary House. Further down, Monster Camp cost 300 soul crystals, Spirit Altar cost 500, Warrior Barracks cost 1000, up to Underground Teleport Station for. These essential buildings serve distinct functions, supporting adventurers, boosting military power, aiding management, or fortifying defenses. I could only afford to construct Secret Realm crystals, the vital entryways to my secret realm. Comparing my secret realm hall to an internet cafe, the Secret Realm crystals were the individual computer terminals for players to log in. Maintenance for each crystal required 5 soul crystals per month, a minor fee that could turn burdensome if popularity dropped. Building too few crystals would fail to satisfy adventurer demand, hindering territory revenue and hurting my dungeon's reputation. A system confirmation box popped up, asking to spend 15 soul crystals to construct 3 additional Secret Realm crystals. Without hesitation, I confirmed the purchase, adding 3 new crystals to bring my total capacity to 4 simultaneous adventurers. Gazing at my 4 operational crystals, I smiled with absolute confidence, knowing tomorrow's earnings would multiply several times over. I stood in the center of the quiet hall, looking around at the worn earthen walls of Miracle City. A sense of boredom washed over me, as my territory currently lacked the facilities needed to expand outward. Reaching out toward the floating core, I activated the system interface to inspect my message management panel. 4 distinct sub-options expanded on screen: personal information, territory information, Lord Communication Zone, and Adventurer Communication Zone. I bypassed personal information and territory information, knowing my current status and basic layout by heart. Tapping the screen, I selected the Lord Communication Zone to see what other creators were discussing. The system revealed this newcomer channel maintained a strict cap of 1,000 active lords at any given time. Lords automatically exited after 5 years, or immediately if their territory collapsed or they met their demise. A rapid stream of messages scrolled past my eyes, far livelier and more chaotic than I had anticipated. A post from Lord 0422 caught my attention, anxiously begging for advice after 3 months without a single visitor. Lord 0321 pleaded for help, lamenting that greedy adventurers cleared his simple secret realm daily, squeezing him dry. Lord 0501 posted a grim update, preparing for a do-or-die battle against the regional Dark Lord. Lord 0131 boasted about starting his 3rd city expansion, expecting to graduate from the chat group in 10 days. Replies from Lord 0052 and Lord 0123 flooded the feed, worshipping the multi-city expert and asking to join his faction. Lord 0957 vented his exhaustion, having struggled for 2 years without clearing his first map while plagued by dark species. Lord 0421 put up a long-term buy order, soliciting blueprints, essence souls, secret crystals, and raw materials. I realized the Lord channel functioned as a vital hub for gathering intelligence, asking for assistance, and trading information. Engaging in actual territory trade required constructing a trading hall, a facility Miracle City currently lacked. Lurking in the chat group proved a great way to pass time, allowing me to monitor market prices and gather intel. I reflected on the world structure separating surface adventurers from underground lords, 2 worlds bound in deadly harmony. Between the surface and underground lay the dark, chaotic chaos world, home to multi-layered continents filled with billions of dark species. Having lived in an underground city for 20 years prior to becoming a lord, I possessed deep personal ties to my former social circle. Returning home required constructing an underground teleport station, the most exorbitant Tier 1 infrastructure demanding 10. Most new lords saw their territories annihilated by dark species onslaughts long before gathering enough resources to build a teleportation station. Closing the lord chat, I switched tabs to open the adventurer communication zone. Since my dungeon bound automatically to Blackstone Town, I accessed the regional forum used by its surface adventurers. The regional forum layout mirrored online bulletin boards from my past life, packed with section threads and active discussions. Monitoring the forum allowed me to collect direct player feedback and understand adventurer mindsets to improve future secret realms. Browsing the active threads, I spotted a fresh post titled Evaluation Report on the Miracle City Secret Realm Doomsday Tide. I opened the review thread, published 30 minutes prior by none other than newbie adventurer Blackstone Hammer King. Blackstone Hammer King introduced himself as a newbie adventurer, offering a test experience of Miracle City's new secret realm. He declared Doomsday Tide as the single most surprising treasure secret realm he had encountered in recent memory. He passionately shouted that even if he died and were nailed into a coffin, he would still scream that Tide's secret realm was awesome. He praised the venue materials, architecture, clothing, and self-consistent Doomsday lore as top-tier mastery. He detailed the rich resource drops including cola, beer, ham sausages, chocolate, and instant noodles, hailing the high drop rate. He predicted Doomsday Tide would become Blackstone Town's next big hit, urging every adventurer to challenge it. I read through the extensive 20 to 30,000 word evaluation report with patient appreciation. Despite its hasty writing, the comprehensive review served as perfect free advertising for Miracle Dungeon. Scrolling down to the replies, I saw many readers expressing skepticism and mocking it as a suspicious paid ad. Unbothered by the doubters, I chuckled softly, content to let the bullets fly for a while. Checking the system time, I saw the chaos tide preparing to descend again, signaling the dungeon's opening hour. I readied my dungeon to welcome incoming adventurers, confident that today's harvest would bring even greater reward. Early morning fog clung to the ground as 27 eager adventurers gathered right outside the archway of my miracle dungeon. A round-faced adventurer named Pig King squinted at the entrance, his face written all over with suspicion. He scoffed loudly, claiming his own bathroom renovation back home was far more luxurious than this shabby place. Blackstone Hammer King whirled around instantly, glaring at Pig King for doubting the secret realm. The surrounding crowd erupted in agreement, voicing their absolute trust in Hammer Brothers. Voices echoed through the crowd, complaining about how monotonous and sincerity lacking other dungeons had become. A tall beauty stood slightly apart from the crowd, surrounded by her female companions and Cat Meng Meng. Bright moon shines on snow leaned down slightly, asking Cat Meng Meng if this was the spot where chocolate dropped. Cat Meng Meng nodded enthusiastically, her high ponytail swinging as she confirmed the location. She recalled sharing her single box of chocolate yesterday, instantly capturing all the girls' hearts with that unknown sweetness. The women sighed softly as they remembered that dreamlike, sweet flavor they had never tasted before in their lives. Cat Meng Meng gestured wildly with her hands, promising even more delicious treats and unmatched excitement inside. Bright moon shines on snow and her sisters rubbed their hands together in eager anticipation, motivated purely by the loot. On the other side of the courtyard, Lonely Swordsman walked beside a handsome noble youth named Sleep in the Wind. Sleep in the Wind adjusted his tunic collar, stating they had to seize this opportunity if the realm was truly as praised. Lonely Swordsman let out a hearty laugh, clapping his breastplate and assuring young Master Wind he would not be disappointed. Blackstone Hammer King paced back and forth before the entrance, demanding to know why the entrance was still shut. Cat Meng Meng cupped both hands around her mouth, shouting toward the heavy stone doors at the top of her lungs. Heavy oak and iron doors creaked open with a low groan, revealing the spacious lobby of my miracle dungeon. I stepped into the doorway, blinking in slight surprise at the sheer size of the crowd waiting outside. Lonely Swordsman stepped forward immediately, shouting with a grin that he had returned to conquer the secret realm once more. Blackstone Hammer King threw his arms up in dramatic complaint, accusing me of being 10 seconds late and torturing his itching hands. Cat Meng Meng giggled delightfully, pointing back at the huge crowd and asking if I appreciated them bringing so many customers. I gestured inside with a welcoming hand, instructing everyone to line up in an orderly fashion before the 4 active secret realm crystals. Mutterings broke out among the newcomers as they stared at the meager 4 crystals, marveling at how surprisingly modest the venue was. Despite their quiet complaints, every adventurer respected the rules and formed neat, disciplined queues in front of each crystal station. Sleep in the Wind won the first spot in line but gracefully stepped aside, offering his turn to Lonely Swordsman so he could spectate first. Lonely Swordsman didn't hesitate, stepping forward and placing his palm onto the levitating crystal surface to enter the selection matrix. A glowing semi-transparent interface screen materialized before his eyes, listing multiple unopened modes like single player, multiplayer, and battle royale. Watching the crystal display from outside, Sleep in the Wind turned to me with a puzzled look, asking what those locked modes meant. Inside the selection realm, Lonely Swordsman scratched his scruffy beard in complete bewilderment, having no clue what any of it meant. I leaned calmly against a stone pillar, and explained that clearing Novice mode would gradually unlock these advanced playstyles. Cat Ming Ming bounded forward from the queue, her ponytail swinging as she blurted out to ask what made the other modes so different. I grinned slightly and revealed that future modes would feature totally different monster types, massive map overhauls, and unique game rules. The lobby erupted into excited chatter as the adventurers marveled at the endless possibilities hidden within my territory. I kept my expression calm, knowing in my heart that with Left 4 Dead materials alone, I could easily introduce classic modes like Counter-Strike and Battle Royale whenever I pleased. Back inside the secret realm, Lonely Swordsman moved swiftly through the abandoned urban streets, eagerly scavenging firearms and axes from ransacked stores. He blasted through several incoming infecteds with brutal efficiency, only to be caught off guard and overwhelmed by a sudden zombie ambush from an alleyway. Lonely Swordsman emerged from the crystal with a heavy sigh, rubbing his neck while lamenting how unpredictable the random zombie spawns were. Sleep in the Wind stared at the crystal projection in utter fascination, marveling at how detailed and tense this realm was compared to the 100 lazy dungeons he had visited. Stepping up to the pedestal, Sleep in the Wind placed his fingertips against the crystal surface, eager to experience the realm firsthand. A flash of light transported him into the heart of a ruined modern metropolis, where towering concrete buildings and eerie silence immediately gripped his senses. He walked down the street inspecting abandoned cars, billboard signs, and paved roads, amazed by the overwhelming sense of realism and lost life. When a horde of zombies charged from a dark storefront, he raised a heavy pistol and opened fire, reveling in the visceral thrill of flesh and blood flying. Around the crystals back in the lobby, crowds of adventurers pressed close together, shouting commentary and giving advice as if spectating a live arena battle. Bright moonshines on snow demonstrated terrifying precision inside her run, cleanly taking off zombie heads with well-placed sniper shots to cheers from the spectating girls. Pig King panicked inside his own challenge as zombies swarmed him, while spectators outside yelled frantically for him to turn left for ammo drawers. Whenever someone pulled off a flashy headshot or narrowly dodged a strike, wild cheers and laughter reverberated through the crowded hall. Watching the crowd bond and laugh together brought a nostalgic warmth to my chest, reminding me of crowded LAN cafes back in my student days. System prompts began flooding my vision in rapid succession, recording steady streams of mental power and soul crystals from every adventurer's death and thrill. I reviewed the surging total gains with rising excitement, realizing our daily harvest was far exceeding my most optimistic projections. I clenched my fist tightly, knowing that at this rate, upgrading my territory facilities and unlocking brand new games was only a matter of days. Although the safe house was placed 2,000 meters from the starting point, my adventurers hadn't even managed to breach the 500-meter perimeter. Yet they remained completely untired, driven by the pure thrill of scavenging new firearms and supplies amidst the ruined city streets. Random zombie spawns kept every single round unpredictable, filling the narrow alleyways with constant crisis and adrenaline. When they finally exited the crystals, exhausted adventurers slumped onto stone benches, shouting praises about how ridiculously immersive the realm was. Pig King patted his round belly loudly, declaring that if Doomsday Tide didn't become a massive hit, he would streak 10 laps around Blackstone Town. Listening to their passionate compliments, a quiet sense of pride swelled inside my chest as I stood near the main entrance. I smirked lightly and told them that Novice mode was merely a tutorial level, revealing less than 1/10 of what the Tide secret realm truly held. Gasps echoed across the hall as the adventurers stared at me in complete disbelief, claiming it was impossible for the game to get even better. Aside from the thrill, the realm had dropped basic reward supplies like crates of cola, Sprite, beer, instant noodles, and chocolate boxes. Sleep in the Wind stepped forward into the open space, shouting that he was buying any and all secret realm resources for at least 5 soul sand per item. Bright moonshines on snow immediately outbid him, offering 10 soul sand per bottle for cola and chocolate to satisfy her craving. Underprivileged adventurers quickly did the math in their heads, realizing a single crate of 6 colas could yield 60 soul sand, a massive sum for an easy run. Though their physical energy was completely drained, most of the crowd refused to leave, their hearts itching to slaughter more zombies. Someone shouted out an idea to call for reinforcements, prompting everyone to pull out communication talismans and message their trusted brothers. Not long after, the heavy dungeon doors swung open again as a whole new wave of excited adventurers rushed through the entrance. A spiky-haired youth named Lone Wolf walked in at the front, calling out to Hammer King and Pig King to ask why they summoned him so urgently. Pig King bounded forward and grabbed Lone Wolf's shoulders, urging him to forget those life-wasting trash dungeons and look at Miracle City. Blackstone Hammer King chimed in with a grin, promising him that this secret realm was truly unique and would never disappoint him. Pig King practically shoved him toward an open crystal station, impatient to watch him fight zombies and spill blood on the screen. Around 30 more adventurers poured into the hall shortly after, invited by Cat Meng Meng, Bright Moon, and the others. I watched the second wave of growth unfold before my eyes, surprised by how fast word was spreading across town. Lone Wolf touched the crystal surface and spawned into the apocalyptic world, getting instantly hooked by the sheer tension. Veteran adventurers thronged around the crystal displays, glued to the live feed like spectators at an arena match. Shouts and cheers erupted continuously whenever a player landed a clutch headshot or survived a close ambush. Infectious energy filled the entire hall, turning my dungeon lobby into the most vibrant gathering spot in the territory. System prompts flashed across my vision in steady blue streams, logging a continuous influx of mental power and soul crystals. I marveled at the numbers. Even established dungeons operating for months rarely achieved this kind of sky-high daily revenue. Inside the game, players pushed deeper to the 1,000-meter mark, discovering powerful assault rifles hidden in abandoned gun shops. One player brought up a high-caliber sniper rifle, taking down distant zombies with shocking precision and range. Exclamations echoed through the crowd as players debated how many more incredible weapons were waiting to be uncovered. Suddenly, a bold red and gold system alert flashed directly before my eyes, announcing a rare drop. I blinked in surprise. An essence soul had actually dropped so early in the dungeon's lifecycle. An excited roar erupted through the lobby as the adventurers realized an actual essence soul had dropped. Lone Wolf held out his palm, where a sphere of dark gray glowing energy, the zombie essence soul, hovered above his leather glove. He tapped the orb, opening a floating system panel to display the zombie essence soul info screen for everyone to see. Envious chatter swept through the crowd, as people marveled at how much higher the secret realm's drop rate felt compared to anywhere else. I watched silently from the side, knowing that any recycled essence souls would become vital materials for building my future mercenary armies. When the evening closing bell rang throughout Miracle City, the secret realm crystals slowly faded into quiet standby mode. The adventurers shuffled out reluctantly toward the heavy oak doors, looking back over their shoulders with itching hearts. Once the hall cleared, I opened my master status window to review our final total harvest for the day. The numbers were breathtaking. A ratio of 276 soul crystals to 449 mental power exceeded 1-to-1, an unheard of record in Blackstone Town. I clenched my fist tightly, resolved to use these vast resources to construct official levels, unleash special infected, and give them a taste of true horror tomorrow. I watched the adventures from my alcove, knowing that the urban doomsday background and zombie novelty would eventually wear thin if I didn't innovate. To keep them truly hooked, I decided it was time to deploy a major content update to refine the secret realm. I designed 2 distinct modes, a single-player level mode for solitary survivalists, and a multiplayer level mode for tactical team cooperation. This campaign structure mirrored classic Left 4 Dead, packing each level with horde waves and lethal special infected monsters. I unlocked the full roster of special infected, Hunter, Smoker, Charger, Boomer, Tank, and Witch, each possessing horrifying unique traits. Deploying these apex threats came at a steep price, with tank zombies and witches costing a massive 20 mental power each. My current reserve stood at 448 mental power, meaning I could summon 22 tanks or witches at most. I had to remember the dungeon rule: if an adventurer extracted a tank's essence soul, the realm's tank monster cap would permanently drop by 1. To maintain the dungeon's challenge, I would then have to burn another 20 mental power to restore that lost spawn slot. Wisdom dictated that I couldn't drain my entire mental power balance, leaving a healthy buffer for unexpected extractions. I committed 330 mental power to construct our very first large-scale official campaign level. I deployed 3 tank zombies, 5 weeping witches, and 30 other special infected, consuming 300 mental power in total. The remaining 30 mental power went into crafting intricate urban scenes, decaying vehicles, and realistic environmental props. Next, I spent 80 soul crystals to manifest 16 brand new secret realm crystals in the lobby hall. The total number of entry crystals inside the hall jumped dramatically from 4 to 20, lined up in neat rows. I paused before buying more, aware that my unupgraded territory had a strict daily visitor limit of 100 people. To solve this bottleneck, I opened the infrastructure construction menu to explore available building projects. I scanned through over a dozen facility options, carefully weighing cost against long-term territory growth. I selected the Mercenary House blueprint, spending 100 soul crystals to authorize its immediate construction. The system screen detailed its functions, increasing our daily visitor capacity by 25 and allowing us to convert up to 30 adventurers into territory mercenaries. Raising our daily capacity to 125 was a drop in the bucket long term, but enough to manage the upcoming rush. Recruiting mercenaries would allow us to explore nearby regions early during our 30-day safe protection period, securing crucial strategic advantages. With 96 soul crystals left in reserve, I finalized the setup and prepared for the morning opening. Early the next morning, the massive iron-bound gates of Miracle City creaked wide open into the dawn mist. An unprecedented surge of 85 adventurers flooded through the gates, their footsteps thundering against the stone flagstones. Cat Ming Ming gasped in shock at the crowd, complaining that at this rate we'd have to compete in speed races just to get inside. Blackstone Hammer King slapped his forehead in regret, groaning that he shouldn't have rushed to post such a glowing review. Lonely Swordsman stroked his scruffy beard, pointing out the newly constructed mercenary house building in the courtyard. Bright Moonshines on Snow smiled in admiration, praising my foresight as she noticed the 20 glowing secret realm crystals inside the hall. Sleep in the Wind adjusted his silk tunic and declared passionately that today was the day he would conquer novice mode. Shouts of charge, and kill the zombies, echoed through the hall as the crowd swarmed the crystal pedestals. Having learned from previous runs, the players moved with practiced speed, scavenging firearms and slaughtering infecteds along the streets. Though they fell in batches, their push extended further than ever, 500 meters, 1,000 meters, and finally 1,500 meters. Lonely Swordsman gripped his M1 AC-10 submachine gun, spraying a hail of bullets into a surging horde at the end of an alley. Through the haze of gunpowder smoke, a conspicuous red safe room door suddenly appeared at the far end of the street. A spectator in the lobby shouted in shock, alerting the entire crowd that Uncle Dao had found the safe room door. Adventurers sprinted across the lobby floor, surrounding his station in a tight, breathless circle. Gasping in collective horror, the onlookers watched as hundreds of hungry zombies surged in from every alley to cut off his escape. Spectators screamed at the screen in a frenzy, urging Uncle Dao to make a break for the red door before the horde swallowed him whole. Inside the game, Uncle Dao emptied his primary rifle, drew his submachine gun until it clicked dry, and finally pulled out his sidearm in a desperate flurry of shooting and dodging. With 0 bullets remaining, he executed a desperate sliding tackle, shooting right between the legs of 2 leaping infecteds toward the threshold. The instant he crossed inside, he slammed the heavy red steel door shut, locking out the roaring claws a fraction of a second before impact. A brilliant golden system banner flashed across his vision, officially confirming his victory over the novice mode along with a zombie essence soul and an ice beer. The lobby erupted into wild cheers and thunderous applause, celebrating the very first full clear in Miracle City history. Uncle Dao stepped out of the crystal pedestal with his head held high, beaming with an overwhelming sense of honor and accomplishment. I walked over personally to extend my congratulations, praising his exceptional courage and skill. Uncle Dao eagerly asked if he was now eligible to challenge the newly unlocked modes. I confirmed with a nod that both single-player and multiplayer level modes were now unlocked for him to explore. Pushed by the curious onlookers, Uncle Dao selected single-player level mode to give everyone a glimpse of the new world. A huge crowd pressed close around his crystal display, eager to see if my claims about the new mode were true. Uncle Dao materialized on a dark rooftop overlooking the ruined city, taking in the familiar apocalyptic skyline. The watching crowd murmured in slight disappointment, feeling the starting rooftop scenery looked barely any different from novice mode. Ignoring their skepticism, Uncle Dao systematically grabbed 2 pistols, a silenced submachine gun, and stacks of ammunition from the table. He pushed down a concrete staircase into a narrow corridor, noting aloud that while zombie density had increased, it still felt manageable. Uncle Dao turned a corner down the dim corridor, only to come face to face with a massive, grotesque wall of flesh blocking the entire passage. The boomer loomed like a 300-pound mountain of bloated flesh, its distended belly covered in sickening yellow pustules. Spectators in the lobby gasped and yelled in sheer horror, terrified by the repulsive design of this brand new special infected. Uncle Dao instinctively pulled the trigger, causing the boomer's bloated body to rupture like a balloon in a violent spray of foul bile. A thick wave of pungent, disgusting bile splashed across Uncle Dao's armor, sending his vision spinning in disorientation. The pungent stench enraged every infected in the district, driving a roaring horde into a frantic frenzy directly toward his position. The watching crowd screamed at Uncle Dao to run, their voices rising in panic as the red wave closed in. Uncle Dao retreated into a cramped side room, using his submachine gun to hold the narrow doorway against the violent swarm. Just as his ammo ran dry, a long slimy tongue shot through the doorway with lightning speed from the shadows outside. The tendril wrapped tightly around Uncle Dao's throat, choking off his air before he could even raise his knife. He clawed uselessly at his neck, suffocating as a powerful pulling force yanked him feet-first through the threshold. He was dragged out into the street, coming face-to-face with a towering smoker zombie covered in green spore clusters and facial tumors. Immobilized and defenseless in the street, Uncle Dao could only watch in terror as dozens of infected swarmed over his body. Ripped apart from every side, Uncle Dao met a brutal, Bloody death right in the middle of the street. Silence fell over the lobby as the adventurers stood dumbfounded in shock, before their stunned faces erupted into pure, addictive ecstasy. The dramatic debut of our special infected left the entire hall paralyzed in pure shock and awe. Cat Meng Meng covered her mouth in shock, screaming that it was a real, brand new monster never seen before. Pig King puffed out his chest, swearing that if this wasn't a legitimate new monster, he would swallow his crystal whole. A lean adventurer named Wool Warrior scratched his curly grayish hair, asking why the tongue-spitting zombie looked so deeply horrifying. Bright Moon Shines on Snow smiled gracefully, remarking that my exclusive monster designs gave Miracle City limitless potential. Voices called out from every corner, begging for intel on the new zombies and demanding that I step out to explain. I watched from above, knowing that most lords suffered from aesthetic fatigue due to repetitive, unoriginal monster materials. Exclusive monster types meant a treasure trove of unique essence souls, making Miracle City an irreplaceable treasure for leveling. I cleared my throat softly, stepping into view with a mysterious smile to address the eager crowd below. I announced in a calm voice that Doomsday Tide contained over 10 distinct monster types, including rare special infected. Shockwaves reverberated through the crowd as players gasped at the sheer number of unique essence souls waiting to be farmed. I revealed the names of the two threats Uncle Dao encountered, the explosive boomer and the long-tongued smoker. Having fully hooked their curiosity, I abruptly stopped, telling them to uncover the remaining secrets themselves. Cat Ming Ming bounced on her feet, pointing out that the boomer was definitely the bloated fat zombie that blew up. Bright Moon Shines on Snow analyzed its death effect, noting how the pungent bile induced an irresistible frenzy in surrounding zombies. Blackstone Hammer King slammed his fist into his palm, praising the exquisite inspiration and design behind these monsters. Pig King tilted his round head in confusion, scratching his chin as he asked why a tongue-spitting zombie was named a smoker. Sleep in the Wind adjusted his silk tunic collar, theorizing that the zombie mutations were likely tied to their human habits before infection. A few adventurers grumbled playfully about my stinginess, though their eyes still shone with eager determination to uncover the realm's secrets. I guided their attention further, revealing that expanding story modes and vast new campaign maps would soon expose the full lore of this fallen world. Pleased with the revelation, the adventurers cheered wildly, shouting that they were going to call their entire families to join the challenge. Watching their wild excitement, I couldn't help but wonder how utterly paralyzed they would be when they finally faced the witch and the tank. White Fawn stepped forward from the line, offering to let Uncle Dao cut ahead so everyone could watch him fight special zombies again. Uncle Dao rubbed his scruffy beard in hesitation, admitting he hadn't yet figured out how to counter the smoker's tongue solo. Sleep in the Wind chimed in, advising him to wait for team co-op mode where combined firepower would make clearing the level a breeze. Nods of agreement rippled through the hall as players realized co-op teammates could easily sever the smoker's tongue and save each other. Satisfied with the plan, Uncle Dao approached me at the desk, requesting to turn in his novice mode reward for official dungeon recovery. Blackstone Hammer King asked in surprise why he wouldn't absorb the zombie essence soul himself to boost his rank breakthrough. Uncle Dao chuckled, explaining that line-cutting contribution points were far more valuable as daily entry competition grew fiercer. Surrounding adventurers gasped as the truth hit them. Contribution points guaranteed a daily queue spot regardless of how crowded the city became. I smiled inwardly, knowing how other lords suffered endlessly trying to trick rebellious adventurers into surrendering essence souls. The system chimed softly as the recovery completed, awarding Uncle Dao 10 official Miracle City contribution points. Uncle Dao held up his status badge with pride, officially becoming the first adventurer to earn contribution rank in our territory. Spurred by the fear of being locked out tomorrow, other adventurers rushed forward in a frenzy to turn in their own zombie essence souls. System notifications flashed continuously across my vision, logging 5 recovered zombie essence souls in rapid succession. I held the 5 glowing essence soul orbs in my palm with deep satisfaction, knowing my private military force was now well within reach. In under 3 hours, 4 top adventurers cleared novice mode in rapid succession: Sleep in the Wind, Lonely Swordsman, Hammer King, and Bright Moon. Sleep in the Wind adjusted his tunic, his eyes shining with intense anticipation as he called for us to launch multiplayer level mode immediately. Blackstone Hammer King threw his head back and laughed arrogantly, boasting that my dungeon difficulty was a joke and they would crush level mode in minutes. Bright Moon Shines on Snow smirked, wondering aloud if farming higher-grade essence souls would accidentally bankrupt me. Lonely Swordsman shook his head, calling Doomsday Tide an irreplaceable treasure that needed to be protected. Hammer King chimed in, suggesting they recycle their essence souls to keep me afloat so they could overfish the dungeon sustainably. The spectating crowd voiced loud approval, cracking jokes about protecting their delicate rookie lord so I could be fattened up for future games. I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly gave myself a migraine listening to their utterly ridiculous chatter. I knew the relationship between lords and adventurers was a constant game of scheming and maneuvering, but these fools truly thought they had conquered my game. A sinister smirk touched my lips as I realized they had no idea the real slaughterhouse torture was only just beginning. Eager spectators swarmed around the crystal pedestal, pressing close to watch the four embark on their multiplayer challenge. Hammer King touched the crystal UI, bringing up the multiplayer menu matrix before the party. The system display presented two clear options: random matchmaking or create room. Hammer King selected create room, instantly linking all four of them into a single tactical squad. A flash of light transported the squad to the familiar gravel rooftop, surrounded by gloomy overcast skies. They gathered around a wooden workbench stocked generously with 4 pistols, 4 axes, and 4 medical kits. Hammer King picked up his gear, warning the team that despite their numbers, they couldn't afford to be careless. Sleep in the Wind appointed Uncle Dao as squad leader, citing his veteran experience in the single-player run. Bright Moon Shines on Snow nodded in agreement, placing her faith in Old Dao's leadership for our rooftop push. Uncle Dao drew his sidearm, instructing us to clear the dark hallway first and scavenge every bullet before pushing out. We pushed open the rusted rooftop access door, stepping cautiously into the pitch-black hallway beyond. Down the dim corridor, a lone zombie stood looking back with a creepy, unnerving smile. Hammer King leaped forward with a roar, cleaving the infected in half with a heavy axe slash that splattered blood against the walls. He turned around with a triumphant grin, proudly bragging about his flawless execution technique. We cheered his clean strike, feeling a surge of security with our combined firepower. Hammer King suddenly froze, raising a hand to signal quiet as a faint, metallic scratching noise echoed down the passage. We poked our heads around the corner, coming face to face with 30 pairs of glowing red eyes staring out from the dark. The horde let out a deafening roar, surging down the narrow hallway like an unleashed tidal wave of decaying flesh. Panic erupted through our squad as everyone screamed to fall back and open fire. Bright Moon Shines on Snow pulled out her pistol with trembling hands, aiming down the crowded corridor. In her sheer nervousness, her hand wobbled, firing a bullet straight into Hammer King's knee. Hammer King screamed in outraged agony, dropping instantly to his hands and knees on the dusty floor. Before he could crawl away, the roaring wave of infecteds collapsed over him, burying his body under clawing arms. The rest of us fired frantically into the mob until our guns clicked completely empty. With 0 ammunition remaining, we drew our axes and blades for a desperate, bloody last stand. Surrounded from every angle in the tight space, our squad was completely wiped out in seconds. Uproarious laughter exploded through the lobby as spectating adventurers watched our disaster unfold on the crystal feed. Lone Wolf and Pig King pointed at the screen, mocking our hilarious friendly fire blunder. The 4 of us stepped back out of the crystal display with flushed faces, thoroughly embarrassed by our instantaneous wipeout. Hammer King stomped up to my counter, aggressively asking why there were so many zombies crammed into one hallway. I spread my hands with an innocent smile, pointing out that since the challenger count quadrupled, scaling the zombie numbers by 4 times was completely logical. The squad stared at each other in stunned silence, unable to refute the flawless game logic behind my explanation. Refusing to give up, they huddled in a tight circle to design a proper tactical plan involving lure baiting, alternating firepower, and hallway funneling. Re-entering the realm, they executed their tactic flawlessly to clear the hallway zombies, though the intense battle drained every single bullet. Pushing out into the open streets, they quickly noticed that multiplayer mode increased both the zombie spawn frequency and overall horde density. Suddenly, a skinny monkey-like jockey leaped from an overhead ledge onto Hammer King's head, blinding him and steering his body uncontrollably. At the same moment, a hooded hunter parkoured off a brick wall, executing a terrifying high-speed pounce that pinned Sleep in the Wind to the pavement. System alerts flashed rapidly across my sight, registering squad member deaths while generating steady streams of mental power and soul crystals. The defeated squad emerged from the crystal yelling about the hellish agility of the hunter and the disgusting control of the jockey. Spectators teased them relentlessly, but immediately rushed to recruit cleared veterans to form their own co-op parties. I watched the constant retries from my desk, delighted to see mental power flowing in like a steady, unbreakable river. After 10 full hours of operation, 13 players had conquered novice mode, pushing our daily dungeon capacity to its absolute maximum limit. Once the gates closed, I opened my master summary interface to review our astounding daily earnings. The system screen displayed incredible numbers: 125 visitors, 636 soul crystals, 1222 mental power, and 18 recovered essence souls. Checking my overall balance, I found 732 soul crystals and a staggering 1370 mental power out of the required 1000. Crossing the 1000 mental power threshold meant I could immediately level up the territory and awaken a brand new inspiration crystal. In just 1 week as a dungeon lord, I stood on the brink of drawing my second game, ready to bring an entirely new world into reality. I made my choice without a second thought, initiating my Lord status advancement as a brilliant aura enveloped my body. A crisp system chime echoed through my mind as a glowing status interface expanded before my eyes, confirming my Tier 2 advancement. I smiled faintly, reflecting on how other lords stressed themselves bald over 3 long years just to reach Tier 2, while I achieved it in 3 days. I examined the next advancement threshold, 5,000 mental power, and felt unbothered by the daunting number. A warm surge of vitality washed through my limbs as my lifespan extended by 50% with the Tier 2 breakthrough. My mind raced through the new unlocked privileges, creating Tier 2 combat units, forging Tier 2 dungeon cores, and constructing Tier 2 buildings. I understood clearly why rapid leveling was paramount. Higher tier dungeons carry richer content, and higher tier buildings yield vastly superior power. I walked into the core chamber and inspected our solitary Tier 1 dungeon core, which could run at most 1,000 mental power worth of assets. The status panel showed 335 mental power currently invested into Doomsday Tide, leaving 665 points before full load. I mapped out plans for 2 or 3 more major campaign levels with exponentially larger zombie hordes, knowing the assets would far exceed 1,000 points. I shook my head with a bitter smile, realizing that forcing a Tier 1 core to carry such massive content was like asking a calf to pull a heavy train. My mind envisioned future expansions, story modes, various battle modes, biosurvival, and battle royale modes. I contemplated the Tier 2 core upgrade, which carries 5,000 mental power load capacity, more than enough to fully realize my dream game modes. I recalled another crucial Tier 2 perk, gaining an opportunity to open the Sea of Inspiration and awaken new game assets. I remembered that while rare items or encounters can also unlock crystals, leveling up remains the primary path for most lords. I pressed the activation prompt without a moment's hesitation, commanding the Sea of Inspiration to open. My soul felt as though it tore free from my physical body, plunging my consciousness deep into a colorful, boundless sea. A shimmering prompt materialized in the swirling ocean of light, asking if I wished to awaken a Sea of Inspiration crystal. I didn't hesitate for a single second, shouting my command into the void, "Awaken!" A mysterious energy violently stirred the colorful cosmic ocean, creating a massive swirling vortex that birthed a titanic crystal from its depths. Before I could even catch my breath, the liquid light surged again as a second giant crystal crystallized right beside the first. Then came a third, 3 massive, luminescent crystals now floated before me in the radiant expanse. A system notification chimed in my mind, identifying the trio, Sekiro, Resident Evil, and The Legend of Mir 2, prompting me to select one for activation. I stood frozen in utter shock, unable to believe my eyes as I stared at the 3 choices. Every lord knows the ironclad rule: leveling up grants exactly 1 crystal, with 0 exceptions. The truth hit me then. My Sea of Inspiration was simply so vast that every awakening condensed multiple crystals instead of just 1. I reached out mentally to query the Sea of Inspiration about what would happen to the 2 remaining crystals. The system revealed that unactivated crystals wouldn't vanish. They would float permanently above the sea as my personal reserve asset library. A broad grin spread across my face as I realized I could activate any reserve crystal whenever the timing was right. I turned my focus back to the 3 games before me, weighing Sekiro, Resident Evil, and Legend of Mir 2 against my immediate needs. Factor 1 was core capacity. My Tier 1 core caps at 1,000 mental power, and even upgraded to Tier 2, it maxes out at 5,000. Factor 2 was territory hardware. A single core cannot run 2 separate rule sets, and Miracle City currently lacks a second core. The conclusion was undeniable. This new crystal had to directly expand and enrich my existing Doomsday Tide dungeon. Sekiro is an incredible game and a deadly scythe for harvesting adventurers, but its Eastern Shinobi setting clashes completely with Doomsday Tide. Legend of Mir 2 is a classic MMORPG, but without a massive player population and territory size, its core gameplay cannot work. I formally crossed off both Sekiro and Legend of Mir 2, leaving only one perfect candidate on the board. I selected the Resident Evil crystal, triggering a blinding wave of light as its activation command registered. I threw my arms out in pure delight, laughing aloud at my incredible fortune. If I had drawn Elden Ring, Bloodborne, or League of Legends, I would have been left staring helplessly at unusable masterpieces given my current territory constraints. Resident Evil's biohazard horrors were perfectly compatible with Doomsday Tide, merging seamlessly without requiring additional core capacity. While Left 4 Dead excelled in visceral action, Resident Evil brought deep narrative lore, iconic characters, and a sprawling worldview. Infusing these legendary biohazard assets would elevate Doomsday Tide into an unparalleled, immersive masterpiece for every adventurer. I opened the newly activated Resident Evil Crystal Library, and an ocean of endless data files unfolded before my eyes. The Monster Assets tab flashed open, showcasing T-Virus zombies, Cerberus, Lickers, Tyrant T001 through T003, Nemesis, and massive Majini variants. Next came the Character Assets tab, legendary figures like Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Carla, Simmons, and Albert Weskier. The location assets expanded to reveal iconic environments: the Spencer Mansion, underground Nest Laboratories, and the doomed streets of Raccoon City. Finally, the Weapon Assets tab unlocked, presenting an overwhelming arsenal of combat shotguns, magnum revolvers, grenade launchers, and rocket pods. I marveled at the sheer magnitude of assets, astonished to count 12 distinct Tyrant variants alone alongside countless weapons and scenes. Realizing that instantiating every monster would cost well over 10,000 mental power, I decided on a phased rollout integrated into story mode. My consciousness returned to my body in the Lord's mansion, and I let out a soft, meaningful sigh, acknowledging the long journey ahead. I set my first immediate objective: harvest upgrade materials as quickly as possible to evolve Miracle City's dungeon core. My second objective was to rapidly expand our territory borders, seizing external dungeon cores to realize standalone titles like Sekiro. I pulled out the glowing pouch of essence souls harvested from recent adventurer runs, and weighed them in my palm. With goals established and essence souls in hand, the time had come to initiate the expansion of Miracle City. The chaos tide began its slow recession across the courtyard while sweaty, breathless adventurers gathered near the exit gate. Wan Chui slammed a heavy fist against the stone pillar, cursing at how severely we had all underestimated the dungeon lord's sheer malice. Pig King spat onto the flagstones, shouting that a thick-browed guy like Lord GG was rotten to the core and needed a harsh lesson from united players. A tired swordsman collapsed onto a wooden bench nearby, groaning that his stamina bar had been completely drained for the day. Another adventurer adjusted his shield straps with grim resolve, swearing he would return tomorrow to conquer the level no matter how long it took. Voices cheered in agreement around the courtyard, all shouting that they had to fight again tomorrow to reclaim their gamer dignity. A ranger chimed in while checking her leather pouch, admiring how incredibly fun the secret realm was and praising the quality loot. Anxious murmurs spread as someone pointed out that forums were blowing up, warning that the small dungeon would be overcrowded tomorrow unless expanded. A loud system chime suddenly cut through their conversation, forcing every adventurer to freeze in their tracks. A massive system quest banner expanded in midair above the courtyard, titled Territory Expansion, in glowing golden text. The quest description detailed Miracle City's upcoming external expedition, seeking to recruit 18 brave mercenaries from the player base. At the bottom of the banner, the reward line sparkled with a small offer: reward, 5 contribution points. The courtyard burst into instant commotion as players read the quest details with wide, bewildered eyes. A veteran warrior spat on the ground, scoffing that 5 paltry points was stingy enough to treat adventurers like farm animals. He shouted for everyone to boycott the quest so as not to encourage the Lord's stingy behavior. A nearby rogue muttered in hesitant agreement, pausing mid-sentence as a sudden movement caught his eye. He yelled out in disbelief as a player suddenly sprinted past the crowd at full speed toward the registration crystal. The sprinting player laughed wildly while running, shouting that with only 18 spots, those 5 points guaranteed entry tomorrow over everyone else. I accessed the Mercenary House interface, linking my zombie essence souls with mental power and soul crystals. While temporary workers came with costs, their flexibility for immediate expansion made them indispensable. A system confirmation prompt flashed red, asking to deduct 18 zombie essence souls, 90 mental power, and 90 soul crystals. The breakdown showed each zombie conversion costing 5 mental power and 5 soul crystals. Steep, but reasonable. The conversion lasted 1 full day, and surviving souls would automatically return to my inventory upon completion. I pressed yes, confirming the transaction and triggering the Mercenary House's automated creation matrix. I browsed through dozens of standard zombie variants, searching for the highest combat efficiency. I selected anti-riot zombies without hesitation, locking in the heavily armored tactical variant. Outfitted with riot helmets, body armor, and heavy batons, these zombies boasted formidable defensive power. 5 minutes later, 18 fully armed, terrifying anti-riot zombies marched out of the Mercenary House in heavy formation. Pig King examined his armored arms in disbelief, shouting over his surprisingly rugged zombie physique. Sleep in the Wind adjusted his tactical vest, remarking that even basic zombies possessed incredible combat potential under this gear. Irritable Chicken laughed hysterically, flexing his enhanced zombie biceps and twirling his heavy riot baton. The mercenary squad cheered wildly, treating this temporary zombie transformation as an epic bonus event. Outside Miracle City, the chaotic tides vanished completely, leaving the vast subterranean wilderness exposed. The 18 anti-riot zombie mercenaries marched in tight formation through the open gates into the wild unknown. Cat Meng Meng gasped in sheer wonder, taking in the surreal underground sky as a first-time expedition participant. Swirling energy torrents spun across the cavernous sky like a crazily twisted, magical oil painting. The Gloom Valley revealed its eerie landscape, a silent, gnarled forest flanked by a winding stream and wrapped in dark red fog. Back in my lord's manor, I expanded an RTS command interface, granting me a full overhead drone view of the expedition. I adjusted the interface settings, seamlessly toggling between low-altitude drone perspectives and direct first-person camera feeds from each unit. Through the live tactical feed, I observed every movement of my mercenary zombies in real time, ready to issue strategic orders at a second's notice. My knowledge of Gloom Valley confirmed no high-tier threats nearby, but a small dark species village lurked just beyond Miracle City's borders. I locked my target onto that dark species village without hesitation, establishing it as the primary objective for our expedition. I issued the strike command across the network, signaling the official start of Miracle City's very first territory battle. I knew a mature dungeon could not survive on harvesting adventurers alone. Expanding physical territory to create new secret realms was vital. Though this skirmish was small in scale, as Miracle City's first step into the wider world, its true significance was monumental. The 18 anti-riot zombie mercenaries marched out of Miracle City's gates, immediately receiving my tactical directions before tracking along the winding river into the dense forest. Through the RTS HUD, I issued real-time search directives, guiding their 2-hour trek deeper into the unknown wilderness. For 2 full hours, the squad trekked along the riverbank, navigating dense, eerie foliage as subterranean twilight filtered through the canopy. I analyzed the tactical terrain from my desk, knowing a dungeon's true ceiling depends on secret realm quality. Even an average secret realm can attract permanent player settlement if built in a safe, resource-rich location like Miracle City. Wool Warrior paused near a thicket, pointing out the dense natural resources and asking if they should hunt prey to bring back. Lone Wolf nodded eagerly, reminding everyone that a single wild boar could be traded in town for a hefty pile of soul sand. I shook my head watching the feed. Adventurers getting easily sidetracked by side loot is every dungeon lord's worst headache. Wan Chui slammed his baton against a tree trunk, ordering the squad to focus strictly on the lord's main mission. He warned everyone that if the lord caught them slacking off, they would lose out on future hiring opportunities. Sleep in the Wind chimed in solemnly, reminding them that Dark Lords destroy countless high-potential dungeons every single year. He emphasized that while trashy dungeons could burn, Miracle City's unique gaming experience had to be protected at all costs. Pig King cursed loudly, spitting that 9 out of 10 human cities fall directly to those damned dark species. Bright Moonshines and Snow stepped forward, asserting that collecting dark species intelligence was their highest priority. Wan Chui grinned gearheadedly, declaring that protecting this rare dungeon treasure allowed them to practice sustainable overfishing for maximum perks. Cat Meng Meng giggled in agreement, cheering that risking their lives wasn't for the Lord's sake, but purely for their own gaming benefits. The entire squad cheered in hearty consensus, fully aligned in their selfish yet effective mission goals. Lone Wolf looked around at the endless surrounding woods, doubting they could locate any concrete clues in just one night. Before Lone Wolf could finish his sentence, a piercing high-pitched whistle suddenly split the forest's silence. Several black crossbow bolts shot through the mist and slammed straight into the chests of several mercenaries. Startled, we realized the sturdy anti-riot helmets and armor had absorbed the entire impact without anyone getting hurt. One adventurer staggered back half a step, roaring in shock as adrenaline burned through him. "Who's there? How dare you shoot me?" he shouted angrily, gripping his riot baton tight. The whole squad instantly turned, locking their eyes on the attackers hiding in the dark bushes. 4 dwarf-like humanoids emerged from behind the bushes under 1.4 meters tall, with wrinkled gray skin, dark red eyes, and terrifying pointed ears. "Grey goblins!" an adventurer shouted, instantly recognizing that alien race from the underground world. "Damn it, they're dark species!" another voice growled as the squad tightened their riot shields. "Damn, long life! Our luck today is seriously insane!" Wan Chui burst out laughing. "Ha ha! Ha ha! This is exactly what we were hoping for!" The players cheered, their faces burning with battle lust. "Kill them all! Don't let a single one escape!" The war cry echoed loudly through the jungle. I watched from my desk console, knowing full well that grey goblins were naturally brutal and greedy, and could unleash terrifying destructive power when gathered in large numbers. The 4 goblin hunters trembled in fear as they saw the armored zombies keep advancing, completely unfazed by their crossbow shots. Relying on their numerical advantage, all 18 anti-riot zombies immediately surrounded the hunter group in a tight perimeter. The mercenaries swung their heavy riot batons with full force, aiming straight for the goblins' heads. "Die, you disgusting dark species!" Pig King roared as he brought his baton down with his full body weight. "Stay far away from the City of Miracles!" Another adventurer shouted as he crushed a goblin's rusty knife under his boot. With brutal efficiency, the adventurers took down 3 goblin hunters in seconds. But the 4th goblin turned and fled with incredible speed, vanishing into the dense, tangled forest terrain. Our anti-riot zombies lacked high agility, and the dense, tangled forest terrain allowed the fast-moving goblin to slip away into the shadowy foliage. Curses rang out through the squad as players slammed their batons against trees in sheer frustration over the runaway enemy. We couldn't let it report back. If this goblin reached its main settlement, Miracle City's secret location would be completely exposed. Driven by the urgent need to protect their new favorite dungeon, the squad set off in hot pursuit along the creature's tracks. They didn't even wait for my direct command, proving once again that players move fastest when their own gaming interests are at stake. Following the tracks through the brush, they soon stumbled upon a hidden, crude settlement dotted with a dozen small straw huts. A quick tactical assessment revealed this was a small vassal outpost under a dark territory, housing roughly 30 adult grey goblins. Adjacent to the village lay 2 organized agricultural fields, one lush with berry bushes and the other planted with medicinal herbs. Working the soil were pocket-sized humanoid creatures standing barely 1.2 to 1.4 meters tall, looking like miniature versions of surface humans. The players immediately recognized them as gnomes, a neutral, peaceful underground race renowned for obedience and agricultural skill. I reviewed their entry on my console, knowing gnomes were inherently kind and obedient, but too physically weak to survive without protection. Lacking martial power, gnomes in the cruel underworld almost always end up enslaved as agricultural vassals by tyrannical dark species. Exclamations of delight rippled through the squad as the players realized they had stumbled upon an unexpected gold mine. They instantly resolved to liberate every gnome and bring them back as permanent labor for Miracle City. Wiping out a dark species stronghold was already a major win, but securing a productive neutral vassal race meant double the rewards. Integrating gnome farmers into Miracle City would boost territory resources and services, directly improving player quality of life in the long run. Grinning behind their visors, the players thrilled over their incredible fortune on their very first shift as temporary mercenaries. With terrifying war cries, the 18 anti-riot zombies charged down the ridge, surging toward the village like a dark tidal wave. The gnome laborers cowered in sheer terror as the roaring, armored zombie horde crashed into the plantation fields. However, a young freckled gnome girl standing amidst the panicked crowd looked up, her gemstone-clear eyes sparkling with sudden realization as she recognized surface adventurers. The goblins inside the village had already been alerted, preparing their crude defenses and crossbow emplacements in advance. Our 18 anti-riot zombies didn't back down for a single second, howling as they charged straight into the village through a hail of crossbow bolts and poison arrows. Pig King was the first to crash through the village gates, shouting wildly that he could still fight as arrows rained down on his heavy armor. With 15 arrows sticking out from his body and having taken multiple sickle slashes, Pig King rampaged through the camp completely unscathed. I noted their fearlessness from my console. Zombie bodies possess incredible vitality, and with armor protection, players lose nothing even if killed, making them entirely fearless. To these players, these grey goblins were a direct threat to their dungeon grinding spot, and anything affecting their secret realm had to be eradicated without mercy. Pig King swung his riot baton with crushing force, smashing the skulls of 3 grey goblins in rapid succession. Just as Pig King scanned the chaos for a 4th victim, a ball of scorching aura burst violently from his flank. Intense flames engulfed half his body, causing Pig King to scream uncontrollably as burning heat seared through his zombie limbs. Losing all control over his charred legs, Pig King collapsed heavily onto the mud ground. Gasping on the ground, Pig King yelled out in complete bewilderment, "What the hell was that?" 8 heavily armed grey goblins emerged from the shadows, escorting an older, frail goblin chief draped in luxurious animal skins and holding a bone-inlaid wooden staff. The goblin chief chanted guttural spells in an alien tongue, igniting a fresh, scorching fireball atop his bone staff. With a deafening explosion, the fireball detonated directly against another anti-riot zombie mercenary. The hit adventurer screamed as he struck the mud, thrashing violently for a few brief moments before falling completely motionless. Undeterred by their fallen comrades, the mercenary squad swarmed forward aggressively, aiming their strikes straight at the village chief. A line of young, muscular grey goblin warriors locked their shields and raised sickles, forming a desperate defensive barrier in front of their leader. The warlock unleashed 2 explosive fireballs in rapid succession, incinerating 2 more adventurer zombies in bursts of roaring heat. While holding back the young goblin defenders, players yelled to Sleep in the Wind and Uncle Dow to finish the warlock off. Sleep in the Wind and Lonely Swordsman sprinted through the gap, closing in on the defenseless warlock with lethal speed. Lacking any melee capabilities, the old goblin chief fell instantly under the combined strike of the 2 veteran adventurers. Deprived of their chief and spellcaster, the remaining goblins broke formation in total panic. Although the remaining goblins were weak, Their overwhelming numbers managed to drag down 3 more mercenary zombies during the mop-up. The dust finally settled as Miracle City secured a decisive, overwhelming victory, wiping out all 30-something gray goblins. I reviewed the final combat tally from my manor console. 30+ dark species eliminated at the cost of 7 temporary zombies. Observing the battlefield behind the scenes, I smiled quietly at the highly profitable casualty ratio. Losing 7 disposable temporary workers to clear an entire enemy outpost was an absolute bargain for territory expansion. Down in the village square, surviving adventurers roared in laughter and cheered over their hearty combat victory. An adventurer wiped soot from his riot helmet, remarking that normal zombies were too weak and wishing for hunter or smoker forms to clear camps without casualties. My squad thoroughly searched the grass huts, uncovering sacks of wild berries, medicinal herbs, and dried meat. At the center of the village square, they stumbled upon an ancient 1-meter altar housing a mysterious glowing stone. My eyes widened through the view screen as I recognized it immediately, a sheltered divine stone. A system interface flashed before me, discovered Red Claw Village Divine Stone. Convert immediately? I reflected on the Chaos World's brutal laws, where chaos energy covers half of every day, preventing free travel. Anyone caught in the chaos tide suffers spirit erosion, risking permanent soul destruction or horrific mutations. Every subterranean tribe relies on a sheltered divine stone to erect a protected domain against the dark tide. Larger strongholds with frequent sacrifices generate wider protection domes, yielding richer rewards for conquering lords. I knew converting a sheltered divine stone into a territory divine stone required mental power, but granted immense domain perks. Once linked to the territory core, the stone creates a permanent supply and transport node. A confirmation prompt materialized. Activating Red Claw Village Divine Stone requires 150 mental power. Continue? I confirmed the command without hesitation, knowing 150 mental power was a bargain for expanding our border. A golden shockwave erupted across the screen, confirming the successful activation of the Divine Stone. System notifications flashed in rapid succession. Red Claw Village captured. Obtained Chaos Chest, Gray, X1. The Lord panel unlocked full village construction, revenue statistics, and population management options. I smiled with satisfaction as Red Claw Village officially joined Miracle City's growing territory. By establishing this forward teleportation point, our expedition forces could bypass a 3-hour march in future runs. I tapped the gray Chaos Chest icon, watching the chest unseal in a burst of silver light. System rewards cascaded before my eyes. Soul Crystal plus 200, Blueprint, Trading, exclaiming in delight. I immediately pulled up the trading hall blueprint details. The schematic displayed Tier 1 construction costs, 100 soul crystals, 50 mental power, and 30 units of material essence. Special buildings commanded steep construction costs, requiring not just blueprints and soul crystals, but also precious mental power and material essence. I checked my remaining reserves. After creating mercenaries and activating the Divine Stone, I had 100 mental power and 572 soul crystals left. Adding the 200 soul crystals from the Chaos Chest brought my total crystal stash to 772. With mental power and crystals secured, only material essence remained as the final missing resource. I activated the newly established teleportation node, descending directly from Miracle City to Red Claw Village. I materialized in the village square, greeted by the sight of 30+ dead gray goblins stacked together beside 15 bound gnome captives. The surviving adventurers cheered aloud as I appeared, calling out my title with eager pride. They boasted boisterously about crushing a dark species stronghold on their very first reconnaissance mission. I kept my expression calm, chuckling inwardly since this seemingly accidental encounter was part of my calculated plan all along. Still, their tactical execution was genuinely impressive, far exceeding expectations for a temporary mercenary unit. I rewarded their bravery on the spot, doubling the contribution points for all 11 surviving players. I reserved a small fraction of the scavenged berries and dried meat for territory reserves, distributing the rest directly to the players. The adventurers beamed with joy, delighted by the substantial windfall of rare surface supplies. I raised my hand and triggered the recall command, recovering 11 zombie essence souls from the field. The dark energy dissipated from their bodies, revoking their temporary mercenary status. Unable to remain overnight in the dungeon, the 11 players dissolved into beams of light, automatically teleported back to the surface world to rest. Left alone in the square, I turned to inspect the 15 sallow, thin gnome captives kneeling nervously before me, chattering in an unintelligible alien tongue. A system notification expanded before my eyes. 15 gnomes beg for shelter and pledge allegiance. Accept? Short on labor in both Miracle City and Red Claw Village, I pressed yes without a moment's hesitation. A system alert registered a minor deduction of 5 mental power to complete the subject conversion. A dungeon operates with the Lord as its absolute core, supported by 4 essential structural pillars. I mapped out the foundational identities: subjects, soldiers, heroes, and adventurers, each playing a distinct role in domain survival. Adventurers naturally split into 3 distinct categories based on cooperation: contracted adventurers, exclusive adventurers, and casual tourists. Hero units remain the ultimate prize. In a kingdom, a high-tier hero is equivalent to an emperor's most trusted minister or general. A single top-tier hero brings more strategic power to a territory than an army of 1,000 soldiers. Each hero commands unique aptitudes, bestowing massive passive bonuses across the entire domain. An ancient saying proved true: 1,000 troops are easily raised, but a true general is 1 in a million. My eyes locked onto Nanceria, recognizing that this unassuming girl possessed a top-tier hero aptitude beyond price. Subjugating her became a cornerstone of my short and medium-term expansion plan. Winning her loyalty meant unlocking effortless control over the entire Eternal Night Great Forest and its native factions. Yet Miracle City remained far too weak, currently lacking the resources required to properly nurture a hero. I observed her cautious posture, guarded, timid, and utterly distrustful of everyone around her. Attempting to force a contract prematurely would only spook her into fleeing immediately. I calculated the ticking clock. Nanceria would remain in Gloom Valley for 6 months at most before moving on. Failing to secure her trust within this window meant losing a legendary hero forever. Confidence filled my chest as I waited patiently for the perfect opportunity to present itself. Turning my attention to the conquered camp, I ordered the gnome workers to strip all gear from the fallen goblins. Gnomes collected stacks of chipped goblin short swords from the mud, catalogued as gray low-grade equipment. Rusted goblin sickles were gathered into piles, marking another set of gray low-grade tools. They unbuckled crude goblin leather armor sets, categorizing them as gray mid-grade gear. They collected several goblin short crossbows, adding another set of gray mid-grade weapons to our inventory. I tallied the total yield, counting 52 pieces of graded equipment, while discarding the useless junk. I reviewed item rarity tiers, spanning from gray and white up through green, blue, purple, and legendary orange. Though all 52 items were graded, they sat at the lowest gray rank. I reserved 5 short crossbows and 5 short blades for the gnome's self-defense, sending the rest to the core for recycling. The remaining 42 gray items dissolved into the core matrix, breaking down into pure material essence. A system ping confirmed the breakdown. Recycling the goblin staff yielded 5 units of Tier 1 material essence. Recycling the goblin leather armor contributed 3 more units of Tier 1 material essence. Each recycled goblin sickle added another unit of Tier 1 material essence to the pool. The final recycling log confirmed a total haul of 87 Tier 1 material essences. I smirked in satisfaction, knowing these 87 essences made constructing the trading hall an absolute breeze. In addition to gear, the gnomes harvested 24 red blood fruits and 30 blue moon grasses from the camp. I inspected Red Claw Village's 2 native spirit fields, the source of these valuable plantation specialties. Spirit fields absorb energy directly from the chaos tide, nourishing crops for accelerated growth. My panel confirmed the plantation's capacity: 50 red blood berries and 20 blue moon grasses every 10 days. Red blood fruit serves as a potent medicinal crop, rapidly closing flesh wounds and healing internal trauma. Blue moon grass acts as a physical restorative, instantly relieving fatigue and rebuilding stamina. Though categorized as common Tier 1 materials, both crops were highly practical, high-value raw assets. Beyond direct consumption, these raw herbs could be refined into long-lasting, high-potency potions. Securing a resource-producing territory like Red Claw Village was a dream, god-tier start for my domain. Whether consumed or sold, these renewable crops provided a steady cash cow from Miracle City. I noted that any graded resource holds value. Even useless items can be decomposed into material essence for construction. However, precisely because Red Claw Village is so valuable, the local goblin lord will undoubtedly send troops to retake it. I remained completely unbothered, knowing Sekiro and the Legend of Mir 2 were waiting safely in my reserve crystal library. My path was clear. I had to expand our territory even further and seize more dungeon cores to host these world-class games. Checking Miracle City's system timer, I confirmed 3 full weeks remaining on our core's invulnerable protection field. Even if the dark species marched straight to our city gates today, they couldn't penetrate the shield, guaranteeing total short-term safety. I organized our newly acquired population, assigning 13 gnome subjects to remain at Red Claw Village for farming and manual labor. I selected 2 specific gnomes to bring back with me to the main city, a young male and a young female. The male youth was named Arno, an honest, slightly dull gnome who possessed hidden martial potential for future training. The female youth was Aya, None other than the disguised wood elf princess Nanceria. I activated the return teleportation matrix, bringing Arno and Aya back with me to Miracle City's main hall. Upon arriving in the main city, I assigned Arno to handle general odd jobs, errands, and territory maintenance. I stationed Aya at the Secret Realm Hall to receive incoming adventurers, essentially appointing her as my internet cafe manager. I intended for her to interact with players daily, allowing her to witness Miracle City's true potential and gradually earn her trust. Arno's face flushed bright red with excitement, bowing repeatedly in overwhelmed gratitude. Rescued from dark slavery and chosen to serve a powerful human lord, he felt his tragic destiny transform in a single day. Aya bowed and thanked me without raising any suspicion, maintaining her humble gnome facade. However, as she scanned the dilapidated dungeon hall, her gemstone eyes narrowed with a subtle frown. To her royal eyes, this cramped dungeon looked less like a sovereign domain and more like a glorified refugee camp for a newbie lord. She concluded in her mind that such a weak, fledgling territory could never stand against the mighty eternal Night Dragon King. Still, knowing the territory's shield made it safe, she resolved to hide here temporarily until the search heat died down before running away. Transmitted the full dungeon data guide directly to Arno and Aya, detailing their daily work responsibilities and safety protocols. Both bowing in affirmation, I turned back to my manor console to initiate our next major construction phase. I opened the building interface, selecting the Tier 1 trading hall blueprint requiring 100 soul crystals, 50 mental power, and 30 material essences. I pressed yes without a second thought, prioritizing trade expansion above all else. The resource deduction registered instantly, leaving 45 mental power and 672 soul crystals in my vault. Seeing a healthy surplus of soul crystals remaining, I decided to erect additional core infrastructure. I spent 200 soul crystals to construct the Tier 1 monster camp. I invested 300 more soul crystals to construct the Tier 1 spirit altar. The trading hall expanded our reception limit by 10 while unlocking full territory trading functions. The monster camp boosted reception capacity by 15, allowing direct summoning of up to 30 territory monsters. Spirit altar increased reception capacity by 10, enabling permanent soul branding for up to 100 units. With the monster camp active, I could summon mindless monsters via essence souls, 100% controllable and totally obedient like RTS units. With the spirit altar active, I could permanently brand essence souls onto adventurers and subjects, binding them tightly to Miracle City. As our structural volume expanded, Miracle City's total player reception capacity rose to 160 people. With only 172 soul crystals remaining in the treasury, I smirked as I prepared to fleece another wave of eager surface adventure. Construction wrapped up cleanly, leaving a rare lull before Miracle City opened its doors to the next wave of visitors. Browsing the territory's market seemed like the best use of my free time, especially now that the newly constructed trading hall was up and running. Tapping the communication icon brought up the global network connecting fresh lords from all across the realm. Messages flooded the massive newbie group at a dizzying speed, 1,000 voices constantly talking over one another. Scanning down the endless wall of text revealed very little substance, just endless venting, desperate cries for help, and bitter complaints. The constant whining of new lords made it clear how brutal this world was. Daily misery selling sessions had become their only coping mechanism. Opening my system inventory, 11 glowing zombie essence souls hovered in neat rows inside my vault. The sheer density of undead in my doomsday-tied realm guaranteed a remarkably high drop rate for these essence souls during every single run. Deploying those basic walking corpses cost me absolutely zero energy, though extracting each essence soul required a single point of mental power. Losing a single point of mental energy felt like a drop in the ocean compared to my overall reserves. Given how effortlessly my secret realm produced these souls, and with no immediate threats looming, holding on to them like priceless relics was useless. A sly thought crossed my mind, and after a short moment of consideration, I decided to put all 11 on the market to test the waters. Setting up the public listing took only a few taps as the system registered my 11 zombie essence souls onto the regional board. The trading interface tagged my items under the Tier 1 ordinary category, marking them with a standard single-star classification. System tooltip windows broke down quality tiers clearly, explaining that essence souls ranged from 1-star common grades up to legendary 5-star ratings. My zombie essence souls sat firmly at the 1-star gray level, representing the most basic foundational quality in the market. Memory of chat market data reminded me that 1-star gray souls usually traded between 7 to 15 soul crystals each. Pondering the market range, I weighed whether to cut prices for a fast sale or hold firm for maximum profit. My zombies held a huge advantage. They came packed with dozens of unique templates, from anti-riot units to workers and firefighters. Versatility set them apart, making them far more practical and adaptable than other weak Tier 1 units. As an entirely novel undead category, their novelty alone made them prime bait for attracting curiosity-driven adventurers. Decision made, I set the listing price firmly at the maximum ceiling of 15 soul crystals per unit. Confirming the transaction, all 11 zombie essence souls were officially pushed to the public exchange. Whether they sold immediately or not didn't bother me. This was a test run to establish baseline pricing for future bulk exports. I shifted focus to browsing through the massive catalog of goods posted by other lords. A Goblin Soldier Essence Soul popped up first, classified as a 1-star gray unit priced at 9 soul crystals. Further down listed a Skeleton Archer Essence Soul, another 1-star gray option selling for 12 soul crystals. A slightly superior Kobold Hunter Essence Soul caught my eye, tagged as a 2-star gray unit for 20 soul crystals. Monsters didn't interest me since I already had Doomsday tied, so I filtered the search criteria straight to blueprints. The Skeleton Barracks blueprint appeared on screen, a Tier 1 special building priced at a staggering 2,400 soul crystals. Next was the Mercenary Strengthening Camp blueprint, asking for a steep 2,000 soul crystals. Even a Primary Barrier Tower blueprint demanded 3,200 soul crystals to secure construction rights. Staring at the 4-digit figures, I scoffed at how outrageously overpriced these basic blueprints were. Practical defensive structures started at 3,000 minimum, making them completely unreachable for my current wallet. A sudden high-pitched chime shattered the quiet room as a bright green system pop-up flashed over my market screen. Reading the alert, my eyes widened as it confirmed Lord 0340 had bought all 11 zombie essence souls for a total of 165 soul crystals. I froze in genuine astonishment, stunned that the entire stock had been completely snapped up the moment it hit the board. A quick wave of doubt washed over me. Had I listed them far too cheap at 15 crystals apiece? Reaching out, I tapped the system interface to withdraw my earnings directly from the trading platform. The system balance updated instantly, adding 162 soul crystals directly into my personal vault. 3 crystals were missing, which the system automatically deducted as a 1% hourly transaction fee for the 2 hours listed. An excited grin spread across my face. If Basic Zombie sold this easily for 15 crystals, I was sitting on an absolute goldmine. Before I could close the market menu, a flashing envelope icon began pulsating violently in the corner of my vision. Opening the private message, I saw it was from Lord 0340, asking if I had any more zombie essence souls available to sell. Checking my vault confirmed I was completely out of stock, with 0 zombie essence souls left in my possession. Instead of admitting I had run out, I decided to feint and maintain the upper hand in negotiations. I typed back casually, claiming my territory produced plenty but I wasn't in any rush to sell them right now. Lord 0340 replied immediately, explaining he needed massive fire-resistant fodder to raid a fire tribute alien stronghold. It all made sense. Firefighter and hazmat suit zombies possessed incredible natural fire resistance, making them ideal counter units. Knowing I held the advantage, I replied that I needed to see what trade items he could offer before deciding. A list of materials and equipment flooded the trade window as Lord 0340 tried to impress me with his high-tier loot. While the gear was decent, none of it was useful for my territory's immediate development, so I prepared to pass. Just before I closed the tab, my eyes caught a golden schematic hovering at the bottom, the Adventurer in Blueprint. Inspecting the details, I saw it was a Tier 1 special building costing 300 crystals, 150 mental power, and materials. Its primary function was straightforward yet powerful, instantly boosting territory population capacity by 100. On top of that, the inn provided overnight lodging for adventurers, allowing them to rest, recover energy, and stay within the territory boundaries. Having adventurers stay directly in Miracle City meant I could easily recruit them on the spot as an emergency mercenary force whenever external threats loomed. Building service facilities like this offered a dual win, providing a better experience for visitors while clawing back spent contribution points to keep our economy stable. Lord 0340 immediately opened the bidding, declaring that his blueprint was worth at least 120 zombie essence souls. I didn't hesitate for a second, instantly slashing his asking price straight in half by countering with an offer of 60 souls. His frantic reply flashed on screen as he sputtered in disbelief at my ruthless cut. Knowing his need for my fire-resistant zombies was far greater than my need for his blueprint, I told him coldly to walk away if he didn't like it. Feeling the pressure, Lord 0340 backed down, arguing that the blueprint was easily worth at least 100 gray souls. After several rounds of intense bargaining, we settled on 85 zombie essence souls, with delivery spread over 2 days. 85 souls was a steal, with Doomsday Tide generating over 100 daily. Fulfilling the order would take less than 48 hours. Exporting undead was bound to become Miracle City's core trade pillar and greatest foreign revenue generator moving forward. The sheer profit potential sent a rush of energy through me, leaving me brimming with ambition for what was to come. Glancing at the system clock as the chaos tide receded, I saw exactly 15 minutes remaining before Miracle City officially opened. Eager smiles spread across my face. A fresh batch of workhorses, fat sheep, and leeks were already marching toward my gates. Far from Miracle City, word reached 91-year-old Zhao He, the legendary White Crane Hermit and former #1 adventurer of Blackstone Town. In his glory days, the White Crane Hermit was an unstoppable force whose name echoed across the entire region. Reaching the 4th order of cultivation, fewer than 5 adventurers in Blackstone Town's multi-century history could match his prowess. Then came the catastrophe 10 years ago, when the dark species overran the very dungeon he had contracted. Decades of meticulous territorial management and resource accumulation were annihilated in a single bloody night. Though he survived the slaughter, the contractual backlash stripped away his 4th order cultivation and withered his remaining lifespan. Invincible warrior vanished overnight, leaving behind only a frail old man burdened by loss. Broken by the tragedy, he permanently retired from dungeon raids and hung up his weapons. Seeking purpose, he took charge of the Blackstone Town Adventure Academy, serving personally as its dean. He poured his vast operational knowledge into training green recruits and dissecting complex secret realms. 10 years later, his former students filled every guild hall in town, cementing his unrivaled prestige. As Blackstone Town's ultimate strategy master, his constant clearing guides earned him the fiery hatred of hundreds of dungeon lords. Yet today, the legendary dean stood in his private office, fuming with uncharacteristic rage. Known for uncompromising discipline, he discovered whole groups of academy students were brazenly skipping classes. Instead of mastering updates on premier dungeons like Tianyun City or 9-Star City, recruits were ditching their assigned tasks. To his absolute fury, even his prized granddaughter Zhao Shui, bright moon shines on snow, had joined the ranks of the deserters. Securing her a contract with Tianyun City, the absolute premier dungeon in the region, had cost me endless favors and connections. Following my master plan, she was destined to rise as a 3rd or 4th order powerhouse, perhaps even surpassing my past glory. A flustered academy instructor burst through the heavy mahogany doors, breathing heavily as he saluted. The instructor hurriedly explained that my granddaughter and Cat Meng Meng hadn't been slacking off, but were exploring a new territory named Miracle City. My white beard twitched with sheer anger at the ridiculous name. Miracle City? What backwater hole did this broken village crawl out from, and how could an unknown pit possess any actual exploration value? I barked an immediate order to drag every single one of those rebellious students back to class instantly. The instructor nervously intervened, noting that Miracle City was a newly opened territory already generating massive buzz on the town forums. Rage alone wouldn't solve anything, so I summoned the town forum interface to inspect the situation myself. The top thread was an evaluation report on Doomsday Tide, posted by an adventurer named Blackstone Hammer King. A brief glance revealed nothing but mindless, exaggerated praise, no different from scam advertisements pushed by trashy dungeons. Scanning down the forum list, another signature caught my cloudy old eyes: Sleep in the Wind. Sleep in the Wind was the younger brother of Spider Lily, the leader of Blackstone Town's top adventurer group. Spider Lily was a formidable youth, making it baffling why her own brother would waste time fooling around in some obscure town. Curiosity piqued, I opened his post titled Miracle City Experience and Strategy Suggestions. Sleep in the Wind's opening lines firmly declared Doomsday Tide to be a genuine, one-of-a-kind masterpiece. He pledged his reputation on his word, swearing to leave Blackstone Town forever if his claims contained a single lie. Though often overshadowed by his sister, I knew the boy harbored fierce ambition and wouldn't recklessly risk his standing for a scam. Reading further, he admitted to becoming completely addicted on his second day inside the secret realm. He praised litrpg's astonishing design talent, claiming the realm felt less like a simple dungeon and more like a living, breathing alien world. He emphasized that exploring this apocalyptic setting felt less like simple monster hunting and more like uncovering the dark history of a genuine alien world. litrpg had even promised a future story mode where adventurers could participate directly as protagonists in a biographical novel. On that merit alone, Sleep in the Wind boldly proclaimed litrpg to be the absolute strongest dungeon designer in Blackstone Town. He concluded his post by announcing a joint strategy guide with Bright Moon Shines on Snow and founding Blackstone Town's top adventure group. Reading through the passionate post, my initial disdain dissolved into deep suspicion, surprise, and overwhelming curiosity. Part of me still doubted the claims, suspecting these young recruits were merely blinded by novel gameplay rather than true dungeon potential. I resolved to enter Miracle City myself. If my students were being led astray by a mediocre realm, I had to drag them back personally. Tianyun City remained the undisputed #1 dungeon in Blackstone Town, and I refused to believe a newcomer could outshine it. With less than 10 minutes before opening hour, I summoned the system interface and submitted my personal entry application. A system chime echoed as my application went through the official entry queue. A shocking system prompt flashed on screen. Current applicants, 953/160. You are rank 953rd. Bid contribution points to cut queue? I stood completely dumbfounded. The former #1 adventurer of Blackstone Town was actually locked out, and turned away at the gates of a brand new dungeon. Sweeping the wide stone floor of the secret realm hall, I pushed my wooden broom across the polished tiles in steady, rhythmically paced strokes. My arms moved so fast the broom became a blurring shadow, though I couldn't stop grumbling under my breath about how demanding Boss Chi was. Boss Chi insisted on an immaculate environment, knowing comfortable visitors yielded far more mental power when harvested. Looking at our penniless lord, I felt a pang of pity for the miserable fate awaiting him in the near future. Gloom Valley sat trapped in an obscure, dangerous corner on the outer fringes of the vast eternal night great forest. Complex power structures and ancient factions filled the forest, far beyond what any ordinary dungeon lord could ever shake. Landing in this dangerous region as an isolated human minor lord was nothing short of a terrible curse. Even leaving the valley posed an insurmountable hurdle due to Bloodthroat, the ruthless goblin lord of Gloom City. City housed nearly 3,000 dark species goblins, featuring at least 1,500 fully armed combat units. Without top-tier family backing or elite faction support, an ordinary lord landing here was destined for tragedy. Deep sympathy welled inside me, though I knew I was completely powerless to alter his grim fate. Though a higher-tier powerhouse myself, world laws within Tier 1 Gloom Valley strictly capped outsider strength to Tier 1 levels. Outside the valley, I could flick Bloodthroat to death with a single finger, but inside, my suppressed strength gave me no certainty. Worse still, exposing my true power was impossible while the eternal Night Dragon King searched the forest relentlessly for my whereabouts. My escape from Holy Tree City was bought with my grandmother's life, a tragic sacrifice etched permanently into my soul. I had to survive at all costs to carry on the bloodline from my fallen kin. My heart burned with vengeance, driving me to seek a prodigy lord capable of slaying the eternal Night Dragon King. Regrettably, Miracle City lacked that level of potential, remaining far too weak to ever fulfill my dream of revenge. The eternal Night Dragon King stood as the most terrifying dark species demon king in thousands of years, requiring a top-tier force to even challenge him. Miracle City still had over 20 days of beginner protection, making it a safe haven to lay low for now. Working hard for Lord Chi felt like a small way to repay his kindness for giving me shelter. With renewed purpose, I accelerated my broom, sweeping so fast the straw bristles blurred into a hyperspeed frenzy. Within moments, the entire secret realm hall was swept completely spotless, gleaming under the magical light. Right then, the heavy main doors of the hall slammed open with a loud, echoing bang. Over 100 people, tall, short, thin, and heavy, surged through the entrance in an overwhelming frenzy. They shouted and scrambled over each other, desperately rushing toward the registration terminal. Someone slammed right into me, spinning me around a full 720 degrees on the spot. I crashed onto the hard stone floor, still desperately clutching my wooden broom as the crowd surged past. Sitting on the cold ground, I stared around in absolute, utter bewilderment at the madness. Miracle City had opened for less than a minute, and exactly 160 adventurers had already flooded the building. Having visited many dungeons with my elders, I had never witnessed such an insane, immediate stampede in my entire life. Cat Meng Meng and White Fawn spotted me on the floor and quickly recognized me from yesterday. Cat Meng Meng laughed out loud, surprised to see the gnome girl they tied up working already. The two adventurer girls reached down and gently helped me up from the hard stone floor. Cat Ming Ming asked if I was alright, scolding the crowd for acting more like ravenous zombies than actual humans. Looking at my plain freckled face, the girls smiled warmly, taken by my well-behaved demeanor. Cat Ming Ming pulled out a small piece of wrapped chocolate and offered it as compensation for the scare. I instinctively hesitated as she popped the sweet treat directly into my mouth. An explosion of divine sweetness melted across my tongue, making my eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock. I held both hands to my cheeks as the rich cocoa flavor permeated my senses. I had never tasted anything so heavenly in my life. White Fawn sighed softly beside us, lamenting that all secret realm crystals were currently occupied. Cat Meng Meng patted her shoulder playfully, reassuring her that another wave of crystals would open up shortly. White Fawn suddenly gasped and pointed toward the crystal cluster, shouting that Sister Minghua had managed to snag a spot. Cat Meng Meng giggled at how the Academy's refined, gentle goddess had cast aside all decorum just to hunt zombies. The two girls rushed toward the spectator viewing screens to watch bright moons run, beckoning for me to join. Curiosity got the better of me as the territory's new manager, so I trailed behind them to observe our secret realm in action. The moment the holographic projection of Doomsday Tide expanded before my eyes, a wave of profound shock rooted me to the spot. I stared in disbelief at the terrifyingly rich atmosphere. This was no mere shallow dungeon, but a vivid recreation of a ruined world. Ornate environmental storytelling, ferocious zombie hordes, and perilous combat details unfolded before me with breathtaking realism. An hour flew by as team after team cleared their challenges, their excitement filling the hall with infectious energy. Adventurers began shouting and forming four-person squads to tackle the higher difficulty official levels together. Irritable Chicken raised his fist in the center of the hall, calling out fiercely for reliable teammates to join his squad. Lone Wolf, Pig King, and Cat Meng Meng immediately stepped forward, assembling a well-rounded four-person fire team. My eyes locked onto their live spectator screen as the four adventurers stepped into the ruined urban realm. They fought seamlessly, clearing roaming undead through ruined street corridors while scavenging abandoned buildings for armaments. Within 20 minutes, they uncovered a submachine gun and a heavy tactical shotgun, fully arming themselves for combat. Just as the fire team caught their breath in a narrow concrete corridor, a sudden ominous chill hung in the air. Sinewy tongue smashed through an adjacent window frame with a sickening crunch, wrapping tightly around Cat Meng Meng's throat. Cat Meng Meng choked helplessly, dragged violently sideways through the shattered window into a pitch-black room. Bloodthirsty undead roars echoed from within the darkened room as multiple zombie silhouettes swarmed toward her. Watching the horror unfold on screen, I covered my mouth in sheer terror, fearing the worst for the girl who had shared her sweet candy with me. Surrounded by nearly 10 ravenous zombies, she was trapped in a death trap where even an immediate rescue attempt seemed far too late. Without a moment's hesitation, Irritable Chicken raised his heavy tactical shotgun and aimed directly at the concrete partition wall. A deafening blast shattered the wall, sending buckshot tearing through the concrete to blow the smoker zombie's head clean off. Instantly freed from the constricting tongue, Cat Meng Meng held down her trigger and swept a vicious burst of submachine gun fire across the room. Pig King and Lone Wolf kicked the heavy door off its hinges, firing in unison to eliminate every last undead monster standing. The spectator area erupted into wild cheers and applause as adventurers marveled at such an unbelievable wallbang counter-kill. My heart pounded in my chest as I applauded inside, captivated by their flawless teamwork and sheer adaptability under pressure. Just as relief settled over the team, a hideous monstrosity emerged at the end of the hall, a charger with a colossal right arm and a withered left limb. Before anyone could react, the brute charged down the narrow concrete corridor like a runaway locomotive. The team yelled out in sudden panic, but the monstrous charger was moving far too fast for them to dodge. Irritable Chicken opened fire in desperation, but his bullets bounced harmlessly off the monster's unnaturally thick, mutated hide. The charger unleashed a brutal Iron Mountain shoulder tackle, crushing Irritable Chicken against the concrete wall, and instantly taking his life. Faced with absolute horror, Lone Wolf and Pig King unleashed a desperate, point-blank volley into the brute's chest. Under their relentless combined fire, the terrifying charger finally staggered and crashed heavily onto the bloody floor. Their relief was short-lived. Both adventurers pulled their triggers only to hear hollow, agonizing metallic clicks as their weapons ran completely dry. Out of ammunition and trapped in the narrow hall, they watched in horror as a massive tide of regular zombies swarmed from every doorway. Refusing to surrender, the two remaining adventurers drew their melee axes and charged into the undead horde for one final, heroic stand. Though the undead wave ultimately swallowed them whole, their ferocious fight to the last breath was a tragic and thrilling spectacle. Watching the screen fade to red, I stood completely mesmerized by the sheer excitement of the battle, unable to pull my gaze away. An irresistible surge of excitement welled inside me, making me desperately want to step inside and experience the secret realm myself. Overhearing nearby adventurers chatting, a bombshell piece of news suddenly struck me like a thunderbolt. I gasped in absolute shock. Miracle City had been officially open for a mere 3 days. This territory possessed no powerful family backing and no faction support whatsoever. Growing to this scale, attracting swarms of adventurers, and offering a masterpiece secret realm in just 3 days was nothing short of an impossible miracle. A wave of humbling clarity washed over me as I realized I had severely underestimated Miracle City. The true potential of this dungeon and its enigmatic lord was far greater than anything I could have ever imagined. My 4 adventurers materialized back in the secret realm hall after failing their challenge, beams of red defeat light fading around them. Before anyone could offer condolences, Pig King suddenly let out an ear-splitting shout and began dancing wildly around the room. Reaching into his pocket, he produced a shimmering sphere of light and thrust it forward for everyone to see. A system tooltip hovered above the orb, Charger Essence Soul 3-star gray quality. Surrounding adventurers crowded around in green envy, groaning at the unbelievable luck of this dead fatty. Irritable Chicken cursed out loud, shaking his head at how a failed run could yield a 3-star drop. Lone Wolf clapped Pig King on the shoulder, demanding he buy a bottle of Miracle City Mount High wine to celebrate. Pig King laughed heartily, agreeing without hesitation to treat the whole fire team. From my lord's console, I observed the commotion while reflecting on the underlying mechanics governing item drops. A dungeon lord could tweak drop rate variables within upper and lower bounds, but could never force a 100% or 0% drop rate. I had locked Miracle City's drop rates to the absolute maximum allowed, earning my territory a reputation for utmost fairness. System guidelines showed that achieving first clears and first kills provided colossal multipliers to item drop chances. Factors like exploration range, kill counts, and mental power release also scaled the final drop rewards upward. Conversely, failing a challenge normally crushed drop rates to near zero, making Pig King's success a statistical anomaly. Pig King's first kill on the charger triggered a huge drop bonus that overrode the failure penalty, delivering a jackpot moment. Sheer emotional high of an unexpected loot drop turns an ordinary battle into an unforgettable victory. Calculating the charger's value, the crowd estimated its worth at 15 to 20 basic zombie essence souls. A single 3-star soul drop equaled more than half a year's income for an average Blackstone Town adventurer. Dissecting the Secret Realm's monster hierarchy, we categorized basic zombies at 1 star and special infected like hunters and smokers at 2 stars. The charger stood as a formidable 3-star unit, representing the most powerful common monster revealed so far. Every adventurer present wondered with eager curiosity if Lord Chi had even deadlier creatures waiting in his arsenal. Cat Meng Meng smirked, warning everyone never to underestimate the infinite depth of Lord Chi's imagination. A loud shout broke across the hall as an adventurer called everyone over to watch Blackstone Hammer King's squad. Dozens of us rushed over to spectate as Hammer King's team set up an elaborate fire trap in the Secret Realm. Inside the urban realm, Hammer King, Old Dao, Sleep in the Wind, and Bright Moon assembled a funnel trap using gasoline drums. They baited nearly 100 zombies, luring the dead straight into the saturated kill zone. Sleep in the Wind tossed a lit flare, igniting the gasoline into a roaring wall of crimson flame. Infernal heat consumed nearly 100 undead, reducing ordinary zombies and special infected alike into smoking charcoal. The spectator area roared with delight, cheering at the sight of a magnificent open-air zombie barbecue. Clearing the charred corridor, the 4 adventurers stepped confidently onto the main boulevard. They laughed arrogantly, gloating over how easily they had outsmarted the dungeon lord's challenge. Bone-rattling stomps shook the asphalt as a guttural bestial roar echoed down the avenue. Before anyone could react, a sedan flew through the air like a shot put, hurtling straight toward them. The flying car crushed Bright Moon Shines on snow instantly, killing her before she even realized what hit her. Bloodthirsty roars tore through the dust as the surviving 3 raised their weapons in absolute terror. Through the rising dust, a colossal humanoid muscular monster surged forward, a titan dwarfing the charger, its entire frame built from armor-like, explosive muscle tissue. Standing before a literal wall of muscle, the visual impact maxed out for everyone watching both inside the realm and back in the spectator hall. Its giant arms were 5 or 6 times thicker than a normal man's, shaped like water vats with pumpkin hammer keratin fists capable of flattening steel. Twisted facial features and bloodshot, copperbell eyes revealed absolute madness, making this beast the pure embodiment of rage. Sleep in the Wind stood completely dumbfounded, while Old Dao shouted in shock, questioning if such a nightmare could even be called a zombie. Blackstone Hammer King yelled at the top of his lungs, unable to comprehend how a monster could be this absurdly overpowered. Concrete fragments exploded under its feet and steel lampposts snapped like matchsticks as the tank zombie charged, absorbing incoming bullets without flinching. Closing the gap in a single stride, the brute took out Old Dao and Sleep in the Wind with one single, devastating punch each. Grabbing my fleeing legs with its giant hands, the tank zombie performed a horrifying live dismemberment right in front of the horrified audience. Challenge failed, a total squad wipeout that sent Blackstone Hammer King stumbling back into the hall in silent, traumatized shock. Trembling hands reached for a pack of Miracle City Huazi cigarettes, lighting one up and puffing away alone to regain his sanity. Irritable Chicken burst out laughing, poking fun at how traumatic it must feel to get torn apart by a giant muscular monster. Lone Wolf approached with genuine concern, asking Brother Hammer if he was doing alright after surviving such a brutal execution. Exhaling a cloud of white smoke, Hammer King recovered his voice, demanding the Lord explain what kind of monstrous freak that was. Sleep in the Wind consoled him, pointing out that a 5-star monster of this caliber promised an essence soul worth a king's ransom. Irritable Chicken's eyes lit up with intense excitement, declaring that a monster this big and fierce was his dream target. Pig King admitted that his newly acquired charger soul suddenly lost all its appeal compared to the glorious 5-star tank. Feeling the surge of greed and competitive drive, Hammer King realized the ultimate revenge against the sneaky lord was forcing the tank to drop its soul. A unified war cry echoed across the hall as Blackstone Town's adventurers united in hatred, fired up to slay the muscle monster and claim its soul. Having watched the entire adventure unfold, my initial doubts evaporated into complete awe and profound admiration. The arrival of the tank zombie pushed the realm's atmosphere and the adventurer's combat spirit to a magnificent, thrilling climax. Having visited countless dungeons with my elders, I recognized that Lord Chi-Ji's sea of inspiration was completely unique and unaligned with any known faction. Miracle City proved to be the most extraordinary dungeon I had ever witnessed, a true miracle deserving my complete, unwavering support. Life became remarkably effortless once Miracle City acquired its little hall manager, allowing me to lie flat in the Lord's mansion, while passive earnings poured into my treasury. Translucent system pop-ups trickled continuously across my vision, logging passive mental power generated by active surface adventurers like White Fawn and Cat Meng Meng. Even player deaths converted seamlessly into profit, rewarding my vault with soul crystals and mental power whenever Pig King or Bright Moon bit the dust. Scrolling happily through the master dashboard, I noted a full capacity of 160 adventurers exploring my secret realm today. While revenue surged, expenses rose as well, with clever players repeatedly farming novice mode to fleece me of basic zombie essence souls. System deductions flashed across the ledger as players like Silly Goose and Wool Warrior looted zombie essence souls at a cost of 1 mental power each. A single point of mental power per extraction was an absolute joke compared to my daily income, so I happily let them farm to their heart's content. The players reveled in the illusion of fleecing the dungeon lord, completely unaware that Boss Chi never truly lost a single copper. Every soul looted would eventually circulate back into Miracle City's economy, providing the exact foundational trade assets I urgently required. Beyond common zombies, several rare special infected essence souls dropped sporadically, deducting 4 mental power for Smoker and Boomer claims. 200 total challenge runs had yielded 4 special infected souls, Hunter, Smoker, Spitter, and Jockey, costing 7 mental power each to redeploy and extract. A sudden roar of shouting and cheering echoed from the secret realm hall, prompting me to step out from my mansion to investigate the commotion. Inside the hall, I found my little manager Nansuria completely spellbound, staring wide-eyed at the spectator screens. Noticing my presence, Nansuria startled briefly before eagerly explaining that adventurers had discovered a colossal zombie monster and formed crusade squads to slay it. A tank zombie? I raised an eyebrow in mild surprise, amused that they encountered the tank ahead of the 5 hidden witches. Tanks cost 20 mental power to deploy and boasted peak normal monster strength, rare, terrifying titans in Blackstone Town. Nansuria voiced soft concern, asking if we should intervene to protect such a costly monster from being slain. I laughed off her worry with open-handed generosity, declaring that since I put the brood out there, I could well afford its loss, for organized squads were actively deployed on the streets, mounting systematic crusade attempts against the tank. 7 or 8 wiped attempts had already transpired before my arrival, with several squads getting ambushed by chargers long before reaching the tank. Even when squads managed to confront the beast head-on, the result was a swift, brutal beatdown. At this moment, another brave team stepped up to challenge the brute, for secret realm crystals pulsing with active portal energy. Spectating crowds shouted frantically, urging the active squad to beat the musclehead this round. Learning from past mistakes, this squad avoided a direct confrontation, deploying a light-armored runner to kite the tank around a pillar, while the other 3 opened fire. Their strategy proved completely useless. The tank zombie smashed through the obstacle like paper, tearing the kiting runner apart on the spot. Grabbing concrete slabs and parked sedans, the beast hurled heavy projectiles to eliminate the remaining 3 ambushing players one after another. Spectating players shook their heads, criticizing the clownish kiting plan and arguing that upgrading weapon firepower was the only real solution. Old Dal, Sleep in the Wind, Hammer King, and Bright Moon assembled once again to launch their final, all-out assault. Prioritizing urban scavenging over direct combat, they systematically gathered an assault rifle, a tactical shotgun, 2 submachine guns, and 3 oil drums. Hammer King personally stepped forward to draw the tank's attention, leading the roaring monster directly into the preset trap. The moment the beast stepped into the kill zone, Bright Moon shot the oil drums, unleashing an explosive inferno that engulfed the tank in agony. Spectating adventurers in the hall cheered wildly, realizing the brute shared a vulnerability to fire. Though heavily scorched, the enraged tank covered its head with giant arms and hurled 2 parked cars directly at the squad. Hammer King shoved Sleep in the Wind out of harm's way, taking the full impact of the crushing vehicle himself. Badly wounded, Hammer King was seized by the tank, but spat blood and laughed, revealing a lit, improvised explosive in his hand. The bomb detonated point-blank in the tank's face, killing Hammer King heroically while leaving the brute staggering on its last legs. Seizing the opening, the surviving 3 reloaded their final magazines and unleashed a relentless, do-or-die crossfire. Under their frantic onslaught, the mountain-like tank zombie finally collapsed with a deafening crash. Exhausted and covered in wounds, the 3 survivors stared blankly at the fallen titan, hardly believing their eyes. As system logs recorded Hammer King's death rewards and team mental power gains, a momentary silence in the hall gave way to deafening cheers.